Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Friday, another Friday, 176th Friday that we've been messing around these parts. But it's good to see everyone, and it's good to see, as always, the best cohort in the business, Alan. What's going on, my friend? What's happening?
I'm awake. Week's over. That's a good thing, as Tony said in the comments already. TGIF.
Yep. What a week.
Yep. But
And
we're all here. You've had a busy week too.
thank you for holding down the fort on Wednesday. I
Mhm.
would sneak in when I could kind of peek and see what was happening. It looked like there was a good turnout as always, and
There it was. It was
good
really fun to
conversation.
do. Yeah, it was fun to do the album club for the first time in a while. I had not gotten to do it with TJ and Kellen and Logan, so they did an excellent job. You've got a really good crew helping you out there on Wednesday nights. A
Oh yeah,
very, very tight unit.
it's a lot of fun for sure.
Yep. And folks had a lot of fun discussing Immolation, which it's one of those bands everybody holds in high regard, but they really just don't get a whole lot of chatter sometimes. So I think
Right.
a lot of folks were happy to see them get a little love for a change.
Awesome. Well, great. Before we get our guest out for the evening, today is release day, the 13th,
Mm-hmm.
and I get my list up here. What do we have? I need to shrink this down. Wasn't completely ready when we said let's go. All right, here we go. Friday the 13th, and here we go. Okay, the first one is Crowbot Obsidian, which comes out on Megaforce, which I didn't really realize was still a thing, but
I did not either.
I guess it is. Next up, Flotsam and Jetsam, I Am the Weapon on AFM.
People are asking about that one in the chat, so if anybody's heard it, give folks in the chat some initial thoughts, because
That,
folks is curious.
I know I've seen Jurgen and some guys overseas showing the last few on their channels, and it's sparked my interest, but I have stopped caring. I
Mm-hmm.
think after When the Storm Comes Down, I think. Is
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
name of
Folks
that?
have said the last couple have kind of been back on track, so this has potential.
All right, next up, Go Ahead and Die. Better Dead Than Mainstream, live at the Marquee Theater on Nuclear Blast. Next up, Guar, Hello, 36th Anniversary Edition on Pit. My second favorite Guar record. Horna, Nix, I can't do Finnish, sorry, on WTC. Oceans of Slumber, Where Gods Fear to Speak on Season of Mist.
Mm-hmm. The guys over at Thralls of Metal were talking about that one today. If folks would like to hear more about
Ah,
that one,
awesome. Next up, Satan Songs in Crimson on Metal Blade. We just had Sue post. We posted a review with Sue talking
Mhm.
about that album on Monday, and it sounds like she might be doing an interview with them for the channel too.
She's
So,
looking into it. Yep.
yep,
So we may get to hear from the guys.
that would be very cool. Next up, Striper, When We Were Kings on Frontiers. Treldom, By the Shadows on Prophecy, another album that was covered in our review section by Ben. Go check that out. Victory, Circle of Life on AFM. Have not heard it. Winterfelleth, The Imperious Horizon on Candlelight.
Is that a new release or a reissue?
No idea.
It looks a lot like one of their other albums, but that may just be the nature of the cover art.
Yep. And Wolf Brigade, Life, Knife, Death on Metal Blade.
Yep.
And lastly, Zetra with the self-titled album on Nuclear Blast. Again, another one I have not heard of or heard.
Yep.
But
Yeah, and thanks to William, Jason, and others who were putting some comments over in the chat about like that new Flotsam and Jetsam. It's already got 2 thumbs up from folks. And someone also mentioned, I believe, the Horna that they said they've already gotten a chance to hear. That's pretty good. So, yeah, if you're looking for a little info on that, scroll back through the chat. And thanks to those folks for chiming in and letting others know that, yeah, if they're out shopping this weekend, those albums are already getting some positive reactions from folks. So maybe they'll help entice some folks to open their wallets and pick up copies if they have them at their local record stores.
right on. Well, to another person that gets 2 thumbs up from me is this guy right here, Jurgen from 6 Beers, 9 Wives. Welcome back to the show, my friend. Good to see you.
There he is.
Good evening, guys.
Thank you for joining us again. How you been doing?
I'm fine, yeah. I recently uploaded a couple of videos. I did a rant about modern vinyl collecting.
I enjoyed it. I watched it today during my lunch, as a matter of fact.
I saw it yesterday. Yeah.
And I didn't even mention everything that bugs me about the situation. But hey, we actually, I have to admit, we should not complain because we are part of the system, so to say. And we, over the last couple of years, maybe decades, we did the best to bring it where it is right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I think that the regarding pricing, that the plants did do some stuff raising prices, but just from my output of putting out records, the prices aren't that bad. I just think people are, they set a new height in the retail market, and why go back? People are buying these records at this price, so I don't know. There's some shifties going on, I think, but.
Yeah, I think that
it sounds like Tim saw your video too.
I think collecting is getting up and down, and now we are somewhat at a height. It won't drop until zero. Will always be record collectors. Alan told the story of his dad collecting records about maybe 50, 55, or even 60 years ago.
Yep.
And I guess, Alan, you could discuss with him. He has seen lows and highs a lot, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. These things go through cycles. This same kind of huge swell in interest and spike in prices happened in the 1990s with collectors and stuff early in the 90s, and then of course into like the 2000s and very early 2010s, and you couldn't give the stuff away.
Yeah, there will always be a market for physical products.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I think I also saw, I saw on someone's Facebook that 2024 so far has been the only year where CDs have outsold digital. I don't know if it's true or not, but someone posted a little thing on the. I didn't fact check it, so it could be, it could not be. Who knows? I don't know. But I know it's good to hear that people are still buying stuff. But I've also just watched a video later today where bands are complaining that it seems like less and less people are buying merch at shows, probably because the merch is so expensive.
Yeah.
So there's some bands in Europe that don't even bring their stuff.
I can stand there and shiver for a while. Sorry, I just can't.
Yeah. That when the bands aren't even bringing merch to their shows anymore because they have to get it on a plane and pay to have it get shipped there, and then nobody buys anything. It's like, yeah. So it's kind of weird. It seems like live, that's where bands would make their money, but apparently not.
Yeah, I mean, with ticket prices being high just to get to the show and get in the door, and then the merch is twice as expensive as you're used to it a decade ago. Hey, it adds up. You can't afford everything. You just can't for most folks. It's like I can pay to come to the show, or I can order a hoodie from you on Bandcamp, but I can't really afford to do both. So something's got to give. Just the state of things. Sad but true.
I don't know about the situation. I just heard. I sometimes watch Sea of Tranquility, and Pete Pardo talked about a certain show. It was already about a year ago. Okay, he lives in New York. In New York, everything is way more expensive, I guess. But he said he had to get to the. It was an arena show, and he had to pay 150 euros for parking alone. And inside, if you want to drink a beer, you pay $17 or $18 for a beer. And
Wow.
Or like this comment from Donut too. Even just for like a relatively local show, you can easily burn $100. A ticket, a couple of drinks, a T-shirt or two, and it's going to be over $100 night out, and that's without having to drive or not talking. Yeah, any kind of a really big, more expensive ticket. They are right.
And I just can't. going out and playing or going to see shows anymore. Buying beer on top of it. Sorry, but I'm typically the one driving, or my kid's with me, and I'm not going to drink beer and then drive him around. I'm just not doing it. And if the cops watch these places. They just do. They used to up here. They'd sit outside the bars and wait for people to leave and pull them over. So,
Sure.
one little screw up like that, my family's kind of tanked. That would suck. So, plus the beer prices are ridiculous. They're ridiculous. For a cup of beer, really? $5, $6? Come on. But anyway, yeah. But tonight we're discussing a band that it's a big band in my life for sure. And I'm going to try to piece through this a little bit of history via Wikipedia. But Kreator, for those who don't know, is a German.
Hold it. We're talking about Kreator?
Yeah.
I thought we would do a ranking of the songs on a classic album and do a deep dive on.
Where's the reset button? On behalf of Heavy Metallurgy, I would like to apologize for what just happened. That was uncalled for and very unprofessional of our colleague. We'll give him another chance.
I was the first tonight. Drink.
Yes.
Taking care of it early.
Absolutely. Oh, and there's been a lot of fake information going around about them this week, too. Someone posted that Danny, their drummer, died in a car accident. That's not true. And someone put out that the name of the album, and they're going to be released in March. That's not true either. So why people use the internet for evil makes no sense to me all the time.
Yay, people that have nothing better to do than just make random crap up.
Yep. But we're here to talk about Kreator, another German band. Kreator is a German thrash band from Essen, formed in 1982. Is that right?
Not yet. Yeah, right.
The band was formed as Metal Militia in 1982 in Essen, Germany, then Tyrant. Later they used the title Tormentor until 1984 when they changed to its current name, Kreator. The original lineup featured lead vocalist and guitarist Milla. Is it Milla or Millie? I always thought it was Milla.
Mille, yeah.
Mille, okay.
Yeah.
Milla Petroza, drummer Jurgen Ventor Rail,
Reil.
and bassist Rob Fioretti.
Yes.
Kreator recorded their debut album Endless Pain in 85 in just 10 days. The band hired then future Sodom guitarist Michael Wolf for the band's tour to play lead, while Petroza switched to rhythm guitar. There's a whole bunch of stuff about them, but that's the lead up of their early name iterations and years. If you want to read more about Kreator, we're not getting into the back history that much, just a little touch of it, just so you know where we're at. And I think we should start with Jurgen. Jurgen, obviously you were at the epicenter of all the shenanigans that went on in the German explosion. For me, being an outsider looking in, of course, I've always gravitated more. I love U.S. thrash, don't get me wrong, but I loved the Noise International era of German thrash, for sure. So what was your perspective as a youngster coming up in the ranks?
Well, my first contact with Kreator was a dubbed cassette that I got from a friend, and it had Cinderella's debut LP, and on the B side it had Pleasure to Kill. And
classic pairing, if ever there was one.
That's an easy keeper reap, by the way. I'm saying if we're gonna do that, that'd be an easy one.
Yeah, that was my first contact, and then I saw the record review for Terrible Certainty that came around at that same time. So that was already in 1987 for me. So that was my first contact with the band. And then I didn't have to dig deep into back into the discography because, obviously I
got in early.
I got in early, yeah. Shortly after that, talking about that is not part of the discography, but their first demo is called Blitzkrieg, and it's from 1984. Fun fact, It says recorded live at the Inferno on the back because, yeah, they were Raven fans, and we're going to talk about that later on.
Did they ever do any demos as their other band names or no? Man, that leopard spot is classic.
Look, Millie looks almost the same today.
I was gonna say his clean diet has really preserved him pretty well. Looks like.
So yeah, and their second demo is called "End of the World." That's that one.
Mm.
And both of the covers were drawn by their drummer Ventor. So he did both of the cover artworks for the demos. And nowadays, his main job is not playing in Kreator. His main job is he has a tattoo studio in Essen.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
He must have someone managing it because Kreator's pretty busy every year, aren't they? All the festivals and stuff they play, they do a lot of running around.
Yeah, but he hired some staff who does the tattooing when he's not there.
Mm.
So yeah.
Right on.
All right. Where did your history with Kreator start?
Alan, why don't you start with that? Where you begin with Kreator?
Well, I have very little history with Kreator. I'm definitely going to be giving sort of the noob perspective here tonight. I always, had heard of the band, but I never really came across their albums growing up. Maybe there were a couple of cassettes in a Camelot Music. If there were, I never even picked them up. They just never spoke to me, never made me, pick it up to check it out. Nobody in school had any Kreator albums. Nobody, excuse me, nobody at college had any Kreator albums. They never got played on college radio where I was at. I never saw them at record shows. I never found them in used record stores. So I heard a couple of songs here and there on compilations was really my only exposure. Like they're on the Doomsday 1 compilation, of course. And so I was like, okay, yeah, that's a German thrash band, okay. But even if they had inspired me to run out and try to get the albums, I couldn't have, so I never did. So yeah, my experience with Kreator's only in the past several years. Basically, it was one of those things like, well, there's a pandemic, no one's going outside. Guess it's finally time to check out Kreator. It was one of those bands I finally checked out, in those kind of years. Over the past few years, I've gotten familiar with about 5 of their albums prior to this topic coming up with Jurgen, so about 1/3 of their catalog. The other 2/3 have been brand new to me just in the past 4 to 6 weeks. We were talking with Jurgen about this topic back in the summer. We originally were sort of aiming for August, but August got filled up, which is okay. It gave me some time to go back and play these, a bunch of extra times rather than just a couple of times each. But yeah, my perspectives tonight, I actually plan to keep my comments pretty short and simple because Jurgen and Marty have a lot more history with the band. My perspectives may be very different, but
that's good though.
It will be kind of unique. The one thing I realized is my takes on these, there's going to be no coloring by nostalgia because it's not a nostalgic band for me. And I can imagine some of these albums I probably would have a different reaction to if I had grown up with them, but that's not the case. So yeah, basically we can shorthand this as the whole video will be 3 hours of the professor reacts. First time hearing Kreator. And we'll get 40,000 views if we start doing it that way.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really glad we did this. It's a band, I've always kind of meant to dig into, slowly working my way through. Like I said, I've gotten through about 5 albums before we agreed to do this topic. So yeah, it's been great to finally get through the rest of the catalog, see what some of the different eras were like that I hadn't touched on yet. So yeah, that's my Kreator virgin story. Marty, I think you've been listening to him for a little more than 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it was high school for me, and in the 80s, and it was, I believe, it's a little fuzzy where I heard them first, but either a friend picked up a tape or it was after the attack on the Doomsday News 1 comp. That album was my kind of come to Jesus moment when it come to German thrash metal. Of course, then after the attack wasn't on any of the records other than that After the Attack version of Pleasure to Kill with the song on it, which I should have pulled. I didn't. But they were a band that was very important to my early thrash years. I heard Pleasure to Kill and I was all in. Just the US stuff is great, but it just seemed too clean and silly, whereas Kreator and other German band, Tankard, they were silly, but man, they sounded mean. You know what I mean? They had a mean thrash metal sound to them. Sodom, of course, dark. Destruction, dark as hell. But Kreator, Milia's vocals, I loved it. Like he was gargling a chainsaw blade. He just sounded so great. You could understand what he was saying in spite of it. I just connected with it big time, and I scrambled. I got Pleasure to Kill, and I went back and got Endless Pain. I preferred Pleasure to Kill, but Endless Pain's still great. Ventor sings a little bit more on the first album than he does on Pleasure to Kill, but this is a nostalgic band for me 1,000%. But I will say, in this case, everybody says, "Oh, the demos and the albums are better. Early albums are better." I haven't even heard their demos, but I really would say that there's some really early Kreator stuff that might be the best they've ever done. Although they're still a good band, they're still good, they're still putting out good stuff, but it's really kind of hard to top some of that early stuff. Although, props to him for trying and still actually putting out really great records. So it's one of those bands that as they've aged, they've kind of maintained. There was some dalliances with other ideas that were met with poor album sales, and they corrected the ship rather quickly after a 2-album gap. But we'll get to that. But I have always had endless respect for Millie and Ventor. I know he was out of the band for a while. But yeah, I think they've aged a bit better than, say, Destruction, even though I still like what Destruction's doing too. There just seems like they've... Well, we'll get to all that. But yeah, that's where it's at for me. They're a big band in my career, in my music career, and the early years in particular. Right, up until when I started really getting into death metal, I kind of stopped listening to thrash as much. I was just listening to the heavy and the nasty stuff. But thanks, King Snake Jake. Appreciate you, man.
Oh, thank you, King.
Yeah, it's not a very glamorous story. I heard him when I was young, and I just completely, like a magnet, was attached to him. I could not wait. I'd go to Camelot Music, and there'd be a new tape sitting on the rack. I'm like, what's this? Oh, wow, it's an EP, Out of the Dark Into the Light, or Flag of Hate, or Terrible Certainty. I didn't know it was coming. I just wasn't getting the metal zines. I just would go into the store and look in the Kreator section, and there'd be a new tape there, and I just... couldn't buy it quick enough. Take my money. Throw my money at the guy on the way out the door. But so yeah, Jurgen, we might as well get started. There's quite a few albums to unpack here, and probably some stories and stuff to talk about. So where are we starting here?
Yeah, so all in all, we've got 15 studio albums. We are just doing the studio albums and maybe mentioning some EPs that are essentially in their catalog.
Yep, sounds good.
My ranking, there might be some surprises, but we get to that. We get to that right now. So, their first album. The first one under the name Kreator, after the Tormentor demos. There's a little hick-hack about who invented the name Kreator.
Mm-hmm.
The label owner, Karl Walterbach, said, so Kreator came up with Kreator, written with a C. And Karl Walterbach claims he proposed to write it with a K. And the cover artist, Laware or something,
Mm-hmm.
he said it was his idea. So we don't know. So, yeah. This one, the label contract had to be signed by their parents because they were actually too young, and this is raw stuff. They went into the studio a little bit like the demos, and they recorded live. It was their first real experience, so that is why you can hear some fuck ups on this album.
Mm-hmm.
but I think that adds to the overall package. Recorded in Germany, brought out in 1985. So in 1985, Kreator were the last band of the big Teutonic bands that got a label contract, because Tankard even had their label contract before them. Yeah, all classics on that album. At least for me, I'm a little bit biased, but in the ranking, that would be my number 10 out of the 15.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people see that as a cult album. I do as well, but looking back, I'm not going back to that as much as I used to. And the two famous songs on here, Tormentor and Flag of Hate, they are just overplayed, because they play them at every single show.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably important songs for the band. They're probably one of the earlier ones they wrote.
Yeah.
Or the more popular ones, you know. All right. Alan, your thoughts on the debut album by Kreator, 1985?
Yeah, this is one I have been playing for a few years, so a little more experience with it. Not as much as y'all, of course. It's very much a German thrash metal album, very representative of its era. It's got a little bit of that raw sloppiness to it, which some people like and some people don't like as much. Personally, I'm fine with that. I tend to like that more raw sound that a lot of the early German thrash albums have. I think it kind of helps set that scene apart from the more maybe tight and technical Bay Area thrash sound, which is good too. They both have their own identity early on, and they sound distinct from each other. But yeah, lots of classic songs on the album. I can imagine that, where Jurgen saying some of these songs maybe have been overplayed with his long history. Since I don't have that history with these albums going back so many years, they don't feel that way to me. But yes, the band has commented in interviews that Flag of Hate is still a staple. They know they can always play it and get the crowd revved back up, even if it's late in the evening. So they know that they can always go back to that one. For me, this album, I rank it very high because it's exactly kind of what I want in a lot of German thrash metal. I like it to be very aggressive. I like it when it's fairly raw. Out of the 15, I ranked this one second. I give it like a solid score, like 8.5, or maybe even slightly higher. Let's say 8.5 out of 10, but could easily be even a little higher than that. I've had it for a few years, and it is an album that I find myself going back to it semi-regularly. It does not just collect dust on the shelf, and that's one reason it ended up with an especially high ranking here. It's continued to get spins over a few years' time. So I'll put it number 2, and Marty, what's your take on Endless Pain?
Well, it's the second one I ever heard from them, and I was wondering this week as I was listening to this record. And like Jurgen, I don't return to this album much. It's been a lot of time since I've spun this record, and it was fun revisiting with it this week because it holds up really well. But I had to wonder, what if Ventor was the main singer here, and moved forward as the main singer? Would they have gotten as big as they got? Not that they're a humongous band, but his voice, I do like it. I think it's he doesn't sound like anybody else, really. He has his own sound. And there's, about half the songs on here he sings on. At least. Probably close to half. And he's labeled first, drums, vocals, and screams. So I wonder. But his voice is a little bit more reserved. It's kind of a yelling style for sure. But what do I think of this record? I think this record is... I'm seeing things out of the corner of my eye. I'm freaking out. It's youthful passion, and I didn't remember that they played this live. That would make sense. I love how the riffs, some of the guitar riffs, and the speed just seems like it's about to fall apart, but it doesn't. They keep it together. There's a couple really oh, what the hell was it? Storm of the Beast, that really super crazy guitar riff that Millie plays all by himself. It's just hard to even see what the form of it is. It just sounds like a run, but he does it the same every time. But it's sloppy every time. It's just really cool. They're really like, yeah, my house too. There is no Beatles in this house, believe it or not. I love how it's sloppy yet they hold it all together, and they're establishing their own style, riffing style here. Where some of the other German bands were a lot cleaner and tighter, maybe more musically developed. For being young guys, they weren't there yet as being really big shredders or really super tight musicians, but you could tell they were going to get there because they made this their lives. This was what they did moving forward. So for me, this album is number 4. I have a lot of fond memories of this record, but again, as the years started to pile up and some albums I like better than this one were in the rotation, I would always grab them first. But this week, it was really cool revisiting myself with this because it's fun and it's solid. Cry War, I'm a fan of that. It's kind of a deep cut on the album. It's just kind of different. Storm of the Beast, Total Death, what a ripper. Son of Evil. There's a lot of great stuff on this record. And like Jurgen said, it's a couple of them they play still to this day. So that's impressive. But yeah, number 4 for me. And that is really kick-ass, iconic cover art. Holy crap. Mm-hmm. So good. So unique.
Yeah, it's a shame there's been disputes about, whether or not the artist was paid for it and stuff like that in recent years. A lot of that finally settled down, but yeah, still a lot of ugly back and forth there about rights and the art for a while.
Yeah, but I don't think you can blame the band for it. It's more the record label.
Yeah, they probably really had very little, if any, say in what went on the cover or how it was arranged or whether or not it was paid for.
Yeah. That intricate guitar riff you mentioned, Marty, that complicated, let's call it, compare it to the Matt Butcher riff.
What's that?
Marty's not listening.
I was banning somebody from the chat, which I hate to do, right. But if someone's going to jump in and be a prick for no reason about politics of all things, we don't talk about politics here, so...
No. I was just saying that intricate riff you were talking about on the album. Compare it to the Matt Butcher riff by Destruction. It's a little bit of a copy of that.
It pretty much is. Which one came first, though? Probably this one.
No,
you're right.
Matt Butcher was already on the demo, and they exchanged demos before they recorded albums. So all the bands,
right?
And for Alan, do you hear some in the riffing? Destruction. It just my opinion. Destruction and Kreator had a lot of influences from the new wave of British heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
And Sodom and Kreator were more on the punky side, more on the primitive, let's call it primitive side.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear that as well?
Yeah, I think that's a good observation for sure. Yeah, Destruction's maybe, early on a little more advanced than Kreator is. Kreator would catch up pretty fast. But yeah, they do draw their sound, from that kind of, core British heavy metal. Kreator, of course, get a little punky here at times, here and there too. But I would agree with the way you kind of divided them up there. That Sodom and Tankard maybe had a little bit more of a different set of influences than Kreator and Destruction did early on.
All right, well that brings us to 1986 and their second album.
1986 saw the release of that classic, Pleasure to Kill. This is it thrash metal? I hear a lot of Possessed in there. I just recently read an interview with Mille, and he said all they were listening to was the first Possessed album, Seven Churches, when they wrote and recorded the album. And you can clearly hear that. They even stole that Rototom stuff from them and put it on here.
Yep.
Let me see. You said Ventor did more vocals on the debut because they were doing it back and forth.
They're doing it back and forth, but I think he was more. I think I only remember him on Ride of Violence on Pleasure to Kill, and there might be one other. But he was on quite a few tracks on the like Cry War, Endless Pain.
He's singing Death is Your Savior. He's singing Ride of Violence.
Yeah.
He's singing Command of the Blade. So at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a very, very raw piece of vinyl. Like I said, this was my first encounter with the band. And that impressed me very much. Even the band photo on the back. It's just classic. Millet growing his hair, having a Manowar patch on his leather jacket. So yeah, it's just classic piece. And for the first time, 1986, we already had a thrash collage in an album.
A wonderful staple. I always love looking through those things. They're so much fun.
Yeah. So
that was our internet back then, people. We would go through and see what all the people's T-shirts were. Like, oh, what's this Soothsayer shirt? I'm gonna have to check that band out. You know?
Yeah, and looking through the credits, who they thank for inspiration or because they were in contact. So yeah, classic piece of German thrash metal. In my ranking, that would be number 3.
Right on.
Number 3. All right.
Now I've got something to discuss here. I'm a German thrash fan, but which one came out first? I really can't tell you. I can't find any real dates on that one for a month where they were recorded. Was this recorded first? Was this recorded first? Do you know that, Marty?
The archive says that came out August 4th, 1986, and Pleasure to Kill came out April 1st, 1986. So Pleasure to Kill came out first. According to the Metal Archives.
Yeah. Did they have recording dates, though?
Oh, I can tell you that, too, I think.
And that is the fun part to do research.
While some sources have stated that November 1st is the release date, other information has proven it have been earlier than that in the year 86.
I think that will always stay a mystery.
It says recorded at Music Lab Studio Berlin in 1986. It doesn't give the date. What no. And let me see what Flag of Hate says. Additional notes: recorded at Phoenix Studio in Bochum, Germany, in 1986. So there's no dates, just the year.
Yeah, but speaking of the Flag of Hate EP, this is the best sound they ever had.
Awakening of the Gods is a killer song too. What a great song!
And this is overall my favorite Kreator release. No weak point on that album.
Right.
Even we've talked about that in the Destruction ranking. Classic half shirt.
Yep.
Okay. These are my 25 cents on that.
All right. Alan, Pleasure to Kill.
All right, yeah, another one that I've been familiar with for a bit longer because I kind of started early with the Kreator catalog and was slowly plowing through it until I had to pick up the pace here in the past month or so. But yeah, this album sees the band if anything, they get more vicious sounding. They're tightening up a little bit, but they still sound extremely raw and aggressive. The production's better than the first album. And yeah, to Jurgen's comment earlier, I seem to recall an interview with Milla where he mentioned that they took like a copy of Seven Churches with them to the studio to kind of be like, this is what we'd kind of like to sound like. I may have that mixed up with some other band.
No,
I think that right. Was something they just like, because the sound on the first album is rough for sure. They weren't really happy with the way the production was handled. So the second time they wanted it to be a lot better. And so they literally took an example. It's just like, this please. And yeah, you can hear the results. It's a very savage album, but in a really, really good way. It took me a few spins, for the album to really click. The first couple of times I'm playing, I'm just like, yeah, they're really, howling away here. But, it took a few tries just for the songs to completely really click. But when it did, it was one of those kind of eureka moments where it's just like, okay, yeah, this album really is now starting to kick my ass and blowing me away. It's another one that keeps coming back off the shelf. It does not just sit there and gather dust. Every couple of months, I'll take it out and spin it again. I'm finding the songs have a lot of staying power. They're memorable, even I like things like Riot of Violence. It's the first song on the album. I think where they kind of rein it in just a little bit, but it is still really tense sounding, still very aggressive. But they're showing with a song like that, they don't have to go 1,000 miles per hour throughout the whole song, and they can still deliver really, really well. So yeah, folks have been mentioning lots of great tracks on here. Command of the Blade is strong. Under the Guillotine is a great closer for the album. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Maybe the only reason the album doesn't get talked about more is that it came out in 1986, which is regarded as one of the best years for heavy metal releases ever. So it's having to basically compete that year with things like Rain in Blood and Master of Puppets. So maybe it gets a little overshadowed by some of those, but excellent album, and it is my favorite. I have it ranked as number 1 in the catalog. So right off the bat, I've used up my number 1 and number 2 picks, but yeah, I think this one absolutely deserves it. A lot of people in the chat have been ranking this one like number 1, 2, 3, or 4. So yeah, I think a lot of folks agree this is top shelf Kreator material for sure. Marty, you've only used up your number 4 pick, so let's see what you want to do with Pleasure to Kill.
Yeah, this is a gem. This is a gem in any band's catalog, really. To be the growth between their debut and this album, I mean, they're still doing the same thing, but they've gotten a lot better at it. They got a better sound, the Harris Johns production. He knew how to get it right. He just had the European sound to me. And these songs really gelled well. And my band, we're talking about doing a cover. So I was like, huh. So I tried to figure out how to play Under the Guillotine, which I got quite a ways on, but there's just a few riffs on there that everything's in time and normally played, but then there's like these weird little out of time, like it's almost like a musical stutter. I could get the notes, but I couldn't get the feel of it, and that was the Kreator sound. I mean, that helped define their tone, their what set them apart from the other bands in Germany. All in very close proximity to each other, but man, what a great album. Ride of Violence was always a favorite. I love that song. Pestilence, my God, just absolutely, Millie's vocals are just scathing, absolutely scathing on there. Command of the Blade, Choir of the Damned, cheesy keyboard sounds, but man, when it kicks in, it sounds like they're hurling all the corpses down a enormous flight of stairs. It's just the way the riff lurches out of the album grooves. It's so great. Death Is Your Savior, title track, not a bad song on this record. It should be my number 1, but it's my number 2. But this is just so well written and executed. The sound is come a long way from the first to the second album. They've worked out a lot of the sloppy kinks. It's tightening up. They're just very comfortable in their own style, which they refine even more as they go forward, but absolutely awesome. Number 2 for me. Number 2.
Oh, a fair ranking. And before we go on to the next album, just a quick hello. We've got several new folks in the chat tonight, including a regular viewer from South Korea who's jumping in the chat. So
cheers.
Hello to everybody. Thanks for joining us. Really do appreciate it, and hope you have fun and enjoy the show.
It's good having you on, definitely. Yeah, I am seeing there's new people in is awesome. Thank you so much. Hope you're having fun. And Jurgen, we are now in 1987. We should maybe have, first of all, this is a very creative time for the band. 85, 86, 87. You've got 3 years, well, 4 years, 5 years in a row where they're not stopping. They're rolling like crazy. This is also listed in 1987. Behind the Mirror EP, which has Behind the Mirror and Gangland, which comes out on another EP that's coming later on. But all this stuff, Behind the Mirror, what a great song. Holy crap. What a great, great, great song. Their band is on fire. What do you think of this? And Terrible Certainty is next up on our list.
Yeah. So that was the US release. That is a normal vinyl, right?
Yeah, it's black. Yep.
Yeah, in Europe it just came out like that.
Ah, right on. They
So
reissued it. They reissued it like that too here recently-ish. Yep.
All right. So yeah, but speaking of Gangland, yeah, there you go. The new wave of British heavy metal influences.
Yep.
So all right, album number 3 in 3 years. Terrible Certainty. The cover artwork is not as good as Pleasure to Kill because Pleasure to Kill is simply one of the best cover artworks ever to be made in heavy metal. This one sounds a little bit more cleaned up. Is not the right word, I think. It sounds like everything is in place. They are better players. They evolved as players for 3 years. But they started to do shows regularly on that album. On Endless Pain and Pleasure to Kill, they only played a handful of shows for these albums. But this one, I don't know, cleaned up. Can you come up with a better word?
I would say that they are they're progressing as songwriters, and they make some missteps on here. I think it's a transitional record. I love it. When it came out, I loved it, worshipped it. But all these years going back, listening to it, I started to hear a few more things that bug me about it. So it's a very transitional record for me. But I would say they're trying to evolve as songwriters and trying to do some more creative or the song structures are starting to get more crazy, like the beginning of Toxic Trace. The intro that lasts for 4 fucking minutes is a prime example. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I kind of jumped in here.
But listen to the vocals on that one. I think Millie sounds even more venomous than on Pleasure to Kill. On Pleasure to Kill, he tried to be evil, but on that one, he's spitting out his anger. Yep. I would say it like that. And this is the last record that features some vocals from Ventor. He did 1 or 2 songs. I can't remember right now. Storming with Menace, I think it is. He did. So that one produced in the US by a US producer. So yeah, the back cover artwork, I always liked that better than the front cover.
Yeah.
This one, I have a little story about that one. I've told that on Metal Mickey's stream we did about Kreator for 5 weeks ago, something like that. When I recorded my first, should I tell it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah. When I recorded my first album with Repent, I was doing vocals and nobody was there in the studio except the producer. The producer left and I slept in the studio. And I wanted to listen to some music and have a beer. I was on my own. I was searching everything. And the only thing I found was a dubbed tape of Terrible Certainty. Well, I played it 10 times that night, having a couple of beers on my own. So 3 years later, we went into the same studio and we did the same thing. The producer left and I forgot to take some CDs or something with me. And I searched the studio again and I found that same tape. And that's was the only tape in the studio. So I had to do it all over again. And that's why the album grew on me.
Mhm.
About 10 years ago, I would have ranked this way, way lower. But now it became my number 2.
Number 2.
That is so ingrained in my system. Maybe because of that experience.
Could be. All right. Alan, Terrible Certainty.
Yeah, we mentioned that they were churning out an album a year, and a big part of that was Walter back in Noise. He really pushed the bands to keep churning stuff out. He didn't like them taking long breaks between releases. And something we haven't touched on, Millie was really driven to make this band work, not just out of a passion for music, but the way it's been told. The region he comes from is very sort of maybe middle, lower blue collar kind of work. Pretty much everybody works in a factory or a mine their whole life. And Milla had decided early on he really didn't want to get stuck in that particular lifestyle. So, when Walter Beck was saying, like, where's an album? Where's an album? It was just like, this is my chance to get out of here and avoid this mess. So, yes, sir, here's the next album. He made sure to, keep pushing the band forward and keep that pace up because, he knew that was his ticket to escape, the lifestyle that he didn't want. So, we see Kreator release a lot of stuff early and evolve pretty quickly. And they're evolving on this album. Definitely moving away from the evil stuff, starting to get into some of the more mature topics, environmental things and stuff like that, which isn't unique to Kreator. Every thrash metal band was doing this around 1987, 1988. They were all a few years older and wiser and starting to maybe realize that you can only do the hellfire and blasphemy so many times before it would start to wear thin. They wanted to do more things. They'd become better musicians. So, they wanted to sort of, flex and show off their chops a bit. Makes perfect sense. All of that said, I don't rank this one particularly high. Marty, you and I, along with Jim and TJ, did an album club on this particular record. It's been about 2.5 years ago now. And, my take is still pretty much the same as it was then. I think the production hurts this album. It sounds extremely dated. I mean, you listen to it for a few minutes, it's like, that's a relatively low-budget late 80s thrash album, and not in the endearing way, really. The other thing that still kind of holds this album down for me, Devin made this same comment just a couple of minutes ago in the chat. It is very much a transitional album for the band. But in this case, the transition means that there's just nowhere that this album has to go for me. If I want to hear the band still doing the more, raw, savage, over-the-top stuff, I'm just going to go back and listen to the first 2 albums. Kreator do the more precise, technical, very riff-tastic kind of stuff. I'm just going to move on to the next 2 albums. And that just means there's, combine that with the production that I feel like I'm having to fight against to really enjoy the album, and it just means I don't come back to Terrible Certainty at all. I don't think I had played the album at all since we did that album club. I revisited it here and I've played it a few more times in the past several weeks, but my take's still pretty much the same. It's like, I don't like the production. And I think I would rather just listen to the earlier or later stuff than hear the transition album. It is not a bad album. To be clear, I'm not saying it's crap or anything. There are good songs, good riffs, good ideas going on here, but it's just not the early Kreator album for me. It's the one early Kreator album that I've got a lot lower in my rankings. I put it at number 10 and gave it a grade kind of like B-, where B- for me usually means like, I like the album, but it has flaws that kind of hold it down for me a bit. So that is where Terrible Certainty ended up. And with that, I'll let Marty take the reins. Go ahead, Marty.
Jurgen, were you saying that Did you say it was recorded in the U.S.?
No, it was recorded in Germany, but a US producer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's recorded and mixed at Horus Studio, Hanover, Germany. Mastered at Studio Nord in Berlin, Germany. And As the World Burns is the last contribution as singer Ventor has made to date. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when this came out, I loved it, 100%. And I still like this album a lot. I rank it number 3. And there's even some hints of what's to come on Extreme Aggression, like the song "One of Us."
Mm-hmm.
What an absolute ripper of a song! It's just such sharp riffs. The way Millie's vocal, he places the vocals in. While you're playing guitar and singing, it's hard to sometimes separate the vocal melody line. Whenever I used to do it, my vocals would follow the guitar riffs. It's some people can separate it. I couldn't. I tried. I'd just fuck up every time. But Millie is a great front man and a guitar player. And some of these riffs are really busy and complicated. And I like the fact that they're starting to get more socially aware. I mean, you can only scream about demons and shit for so long, I suppose. But it gave this band a bit of evolution to be more putting them on the world scale. You know, they're caring about human rights and all that stuff, which is, it's important. And this album, to me, I understand what Alan's saying about the production. It's kind of clunky in spots. I love the song Toxic Trace, but only until the song starts. I hate the start stops of the intro. There's like 5 spots where the song should have started, but they just keep on. Oh, here's another. It's like they had like 4 different songs that they didn't have finished, so they just lopped them on the beginning of Toxic Trace. But Storming with Menace is a really catchy track. Blind Faith is a great opener. Of course, it closes with the epic track Behind the Mirror, which was a single. I love that song. Very complex. It kind of makes me wonder if they were starting to listen to more U.S. bands. Some of these songs start to get a little bit more complexity built into them, but along the way, they're starting to really get better at their instrumentation, and the songwriting's getting a bit more adventurous. I do see this as a transitional album, but it's still really good. Number 3 for me. Classic, 100%.
Yeah, and on that album, they already started to tour the US with Voivod back in the day. So that is probably a reason why they are so popular over in the US. So none of the other German bands did that.
Running Wild did.
Yeah, Running Wild. Running Wild
burned.
They didn't do it. They tried it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, Jurgen. Kreator were one of the few bands that were willing. They made several trips to the U.S. And that was another thing. When Walter Bach said, hit the road for 8 months, they were just like, will do, boss. If that's what it takes to keep this career going, that's what we'll do. And it worked well for them. Absolutely.
Reading that book, Damn the Machine. We've had David Gelke on talking about that book. He wrote the book. It's talks about Walter Bach and the Noise Records legacy label. I was just utterly disgusted how big of a band Kreator became, and Walter Bach treated those guys like shit. He treated them like oh, you're just little kids. I'm just gonna, he would have Millie come in for a meeting, and then he would have to take buses and shit to get to the meeting, and then he'd blow them off. Oh, I'm too busy to deal with you today, type of shit. Just like, man, fuck off. That's just shitty things to do to anybody, let alone a kid. But
multiple people interviewed in that book said that, of all the bands on Noise, Kreator were treated the worst in their opinion.
Yeah.
But again, Millie, put up with it, soldiered through it, and worked out in the end. Interestingly, Millie himself really didn't say much negative in that book about.
He didn't.
He said the contract was crap. We didn't know the difference at the time, but he seems to have a very sort of glass half full view on life. He's like, at the same time, hey, it got us launched. He supported us when probably no other label was going to. So, it worked out fine. No, he doesn't really harbor any grudge or stuff the way some musicians and artists still do to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but imagine how many records did Noise Records sell between 1984 and 1987? So as a little kid, when you come into the office of your boss, you have to be aware maybe your boss doesn't have time because he's looking for a new Jaguar or a new Mercedes Benz. So yeah.
That would have been interesting if they were on Steam Hammer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that is. And I mean, that was actually, a big part of the reason Kreator ended up on Noise was that, and this is covered in the book too, Walter Bach knew that Steamhammer already had tied up Destruction and Sodom, and he felt like Tankard wasn't quite ready for a deal. I guess he had heard maybe some Tankard demo or something, but he felt like, I really do need to add a German thrash band to the roster here. And the Kreator demo showed up. Well, at the time, the Tormentor demo showed up at just the right time to catch his ear and be like, "Yeah, this will work. This is kind of what I'm looking for."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it worked out. One little thing I wanted to add on Terrible Certainty before we moved on. Did want to make the point. I can very much see that if I had grown up with this album, if I had discovered it in like 88, 89 or something and been playing it for 30 years, I bet I would have this album ranked a lot higher. I probably would have.
You would have been less focused on the production.
I'd probably been less focused on the production, and I would just have heard the songs a lot more. It would have gotten more ingrained in me. Yeah. So this is one where not having that early exposure to it probably does hold it down some, and I can readily admit that. So just wanted to make that point because again, I don't have the nostalgia factor with any of these albums like both of you do. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. It's just a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And Jurgen, go ahead.
That is a good thing. I think if we all would like the same thing, it would be a boring scene. A very, very boring scene.
Yeah, 100%.
I have it ranked number 5 also. Wow, we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
What a boring show this is. Yeah.
Sorry, Marty.
1988. Before we go on to 89, there's one other thing to show, isn't there, Jurgen?
Yeah, a short interlude, a short EP. Just one new song, Impossible to Cure. And the new song on there is a killer song. 2.5 minutes, in and out, done the job. It's perfect. We've got a Raven cover. Remember, recorded live at the Inferno on the demo. They covered Lambs to the Slaughter. And 3 old songs as live tracks on the B-side.
Yep.
And some people mistake it. They say it's recorded at the Dynamo Festival. It isn't. The Dynamo Festival, and we have a Dynamo Club in Eindhoven. It's recorded at the Dynamo Club. So not the open air festival.
Ah, right. Okay.
So yeah, don't get confused.
And what a great cover artwork too. I love the tilted perspective with the logo on the corner like that. Mm-hmm. So cool. It's different. That what's his name?
Phil.
Lavra.
Lavier.
Laviere. Phil Laviere. What a great painter.
Yeah, perfect little interlude, I would say.
Which leads us to 1989.
Yeah. Let's go a little bit faster. This is my number 1. Perfect songs, perfect production. I even love the artwork because it's different, but it still has something. Back in the day, we were like, what the fuck? Nowadays, I love it. They sold T-shirts of that, and we thought, who the fuck would buy a T-shirt with that image on it? Nowadays, I would have been proud to own it.
Yeah.
No stinker on the album. This is my number 1. Period. Next.
All right. Alan.
Let's see. For me, I ended up ranking it number 4, and this is one I was not familiar with until the past 6 weeks or so. Yeah, everyone's talked it up quite a bit. Of course, I was curious to check it out, but I had not.
You bought me a copy of it. You didn't listen to it?
No, I bought that copy and sent it on to you.
You should have listened to it.
Yep. That's okay. I knew I'd get to it sooner or later. So yeah, again, it's a first impression kind of take for me. It's a very good, late 80s thrash album. The sound is much better than Terrible Certainty, so that's a big plus for sure. Not that it's the most amazing production job in history, but yeah, it works fine for the music here. And as such, yes, you can actually hear the music better. Really good set of songs. And if there's one thing that I've noticed, though, and again, this is first impression, it does feel in some ways like a relatively safe album. This was one where they were getting the distribution deals with, is it CBS, or they were getting bigger distribution in the States and other territories. I don't know if there was any pressure to like, hey guys, you got to make this one kind of put smile and look pretty for the cover art kind of thing. We can't put some demon or washed out watercolor on here. Just things like the cover art and the sound. It feels like they are obviously doing good songs, but they're not doing anything too over the top or too crazy. It feels like they are trying very consciously to we need to deliver a very, very good album, and they did, absolutely. But I don't know, just something about the overall package feels like it was a safe call. That they did not take any chances on this one or mess anything up. So I mean, it works both ways. They didn't mess anything up at all, but it's not. I'll put it this way: again, being new to it, it doesn't strike me as instant classic, must-have, top 3 thrash metal album of all time. And a big part of that is being new with it. But yeah, it doesn't have that kind of immediate, wow, my mind is blown and I have to reorder the way I think about, my S-tier thrash albums right away. It's a very good album. I'm giving it a strong, 8.5, 9 out of 10 kind of score here. And I'm ranking it 4th. But I'm not immediately putting it on, the upper pantheon of all thrash metal ever recorded. I know both of y'all do love it, so not trying to knock it at all.
It's on my pantheon for sure.
And it sounds like it's in Jurgen's pantheon. Several folks in the chat have been saying it's top 5 thrash metal of all time. That's absolutely cool. It's got a lot of love, and that's great. Maybe 10 years from now, it will be there for me. But again, as sort of a newcomer to the album, it's just wow, that's a very good thrash metal album. But that's as high as it goes for me right now. So yeah, Marty, let me shut up and let you gush about it, because this is a very, very big and very special album for you. I think we all know that.
It is, and this is a culmination of Kreator really refining their craft, and if Terrible Certainty is a great record, but it's a stepping stone to get to this. And Noise International overseas, it got picked up by Epic. Walter Bach must have worked out some deal, big major label here in the States. I don't know if that was a worldwide thing or just in the States, but and having seen what Kreator wanted the original artwork to be for this album, I'm glad they went with this. I remember seeing this on the shelf and going, oh, that's a horrible cover. What's going on here? Is this a bootleg? Looking at it,
I when I've seen it before, Marty, before I kind of got serious about checking out Kreator, I never knew what the hell was up with that album. I'm like, is this a greatest hits package or something, like an anthology?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
It really threw me, yeah.
Yeah, but seeing the original artwork they wanted, it wasn't very good. I see why Walter Bach said, let's do this instead. Probably a good judgment call, but man, this is a special record, and this pretty much sizes up. In 1989, the year I graduated high school, this thing came out. I listened to this over and over and over. And even to this day, for as many times as I've spun this record, I could still put it on and just be completely thrilled with what I'm hearing. This ranks up there with Illusions, Chemical Exposure from Sadis, Holy Terror Records. This is in top tier. This is top tier thrash for me. And the production is really perfect. It's really clean, but aggressive, which is 2 weird words to put on the same line together. But the songwriting is exceptional. Millie's vocals are searing but coherent. I like the social slant of some of the lyrics. Wow, it's just a special record, and it's a tough record to recoup from, in my book. It just is. And I really loved what came after it, but it just isn't as good. Just isn't as good. This record, thank you again, Alan, for picking this up. It's I had
birthday.
thank you. Your birthday present. I don't even know. I have to talk to Mel. I have to talk to Mel. But yes, number one all day long, every day. I was writing this down. That was the first one on here. Number one. All the rest is irrelevant. If they only put out one record and it was this one, perfect. They got in, they got out. No muss, no fuss. Amazing song, amazing album. Which leads us, go ahead.
I'm a little bit biased with that one because that was the first time I saw them live, and guess who played a support act? It was Raven.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Man, Raven's always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. It seems. I don't know.
And I can see why Alan said it sounds a little bit on the safe side. That might have to do with they recorded the album twice. So the first recording, they didn't like the sound, so they hired Randy Burns to do it again, and they recorded it again. So they had the first version that has maybe, I never heard it, that youthful energy. And if you do it a second time, only a couple of weeks or months later, you know what you're doing, and that brings the safety feeling. So that's my take on it.
That could be. Yeah. Andy was asking does anybody know, did the original version ever see the light of day on any kind of reissue?
No.
Never did.
They should do a cash-in, release the album with the original artwork and the first recording, if that still exists.
Yeah. Or it'd be neat if they did it like they did the Obsessed by Cruelty package, where they had both versions as like a 2 LP set.
Yeah.
All right. We are up to 1990.
1990 saw the release of Coma of Souls. Cool artwork.
Yep.
The album itself, this is the one for me that is on the safe side. It is a little bit rushed, and they had to do a still on noise record. So obviously, Carl Walter Buck said, "We need a new album." Extreme Aggressions did well. You did a lot of great tours. You did a lot of great festivals. So where's the follow-up? So it sounds rushed. Not that the songs on it are bad. The production is also great. It sounds a little bit tamer, in my opinion, than Extreme Aggression. But this one, yeah, I love all the songs on it. People of the Lie is obviously, it's their hit, or Terror Zone. They still play those to this day.
World Beyond has always been a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that is one they never play live, unfortunately. Yeah, Mental Slavery, the last song is pretty cool. This one is my number 8 in the ranking. It's not a bad album, but it sounds a little bit... Marty says it sounds tired.
It sounds tired.
I don't think it sounds tired. It's just a little bit too tame.
All right. Alan.
Yeah, that's interesting, because for me it's the other way around. This is the more energetic sounding version of Extreme Aggression. It's like Extreme Aggression 2, but this time it comes across, as a little more energetic and emotive.
You like the more polished production.
Well, I get the production here between this and Extreme Aggression is not that much different that it's affecting me. So I think they both sound good in terms of production. They're pretty similar in terms of the band's kind of found their zone in terms of they're straddling that still being vicious when needed, but now they've found their technical side as well. So the two albums kind of go together very well, in my opinion. Just like the first two albums kind of fit together, being the early raw evil stuff. Now we've got these two albums as the cleaned up, really good sounding more technical and mature subject matter stuff with, again, environmental topics like on When the Sun Burns Red and such. So yeah, and again, it's first impressions because I had never heard this album until the past month or. But yeah, for this one jumps out and grabs me a little bit more than Extreme Aggression does. And maybe Jurgen's right. Maybe it's something that they were maybe more rushed on this album, and so it was like, okay, it comes across as a little more energetic, as opposed to Extreme Aggression, where they had to be like, okay, let's go back and from the top, take two. Do it all over again. So yeah, Coma of Souls has really impressed me, and I've got it ranked at number 3, one step higher than Extreme Aggression. And I'd give it the same, very similar grade in terms of like a grade. They're kind of tied right there at that, 8.8 to 8.9, somewhere right there in the high 8s or right at 9 out of 10 kind of album. Really like it. This will. If I were to go out tomorrow and order one Kreator album to add to the shelf, this would be the one I'd order that I don't have already.
Right on. Okay, yeah, for me.
Yeah, for you, Marty, I know you've never been quite as high on this one.
You know what? I love this record. I do. It's my number 5. And when it came out, I gave it the exact same amount of attention as I did Extreme Aggression. I was ravenous for this band. I love this band. But it just seemed like the songs, like Jurgen said, I think this record sounds tired. They've been burning hard. I mean, 85, 86, multiple releases, 87, 88, 89, and now 90. And touring, the touring is starting to get bigger as they go. They're in America now, so that's a whole nother leg and set of challenges. But this record to me, I think Jurgen's right. Walter Bach wanted something quick, and the songs, they're getting better at their instruments still, and some of the structures and stuff seem real high concept to me. But I like this record. I like Milla's vocals on it. I think the production's a little bit more polished. It's to be noted, they got Frank Blackfire from Sodom.
Yes,
this is his first album with the band. So that adds a little bit more shreddability to the equation to complement Millie's interesting riffage. But yeah, this record, listen to it I still like it. I tend to People of the Lie I really do like. As the World Burns, or World Beyond, that's a little quicker, faster, more simplistic song. I gravitated towards that right away. Some of the more high concept tracks are a little harder to take, but I listened to it enough where they grew on me. I can sing along with every song on this record. So my bitching about it over all these years on this channel, it's just, if this came out first, if you were to flip flop this in Extreme Aggression, maybe it'd be different. Maybe it would be different, but it didn't happen that way. And Extreme Aggression to me is just perfect name for the album title, and the performance and the songs and the sound. This here, it just sounds like a band hurrying up, trying to put something high concept together. They're a little bit burnout, but I still enjoy it. It's good. Number 5 for me, which comes to a very divisive album for me. But we'll get there.
Maybe on Coma of Souls, maybe it wasn't Karl Walterbach. Think about that. They released Pleasure to Kill, Terrible Certainty, and Extreme Aggression. They did very well. They played shows, but they were a little bit older now, but they didn't have the safety net. Back in the days, they were living with their parents. Now they weren't.
Yep.
So maybe they said, we need to put out another album and go on tour and keep the pace going.
Plus, they're on a subsidiary of Epic. I mean, it says Epic Records, Noise International on the U.S. That's a big label. So there's all these pressures building up on them.
Yeah. All right. First time they took 2 years, because on Coma of Souls they toured a lot. So in 1992 saw the release of this little gem. I liked it when it came out. I loved the cover artwork. It was so different.
It is different.
It was so awkward. Even the back cover, how they arranged the photos like a Psycho Killer would do it on his wall. When I first put that on, the long intro to Winter Materium, the repetitive riff, and then the drum beat starts, that simple drum beat and that simple riffs kicks in, and then Millis starts yelling in a total monotone way.
Hardcore
And,
style.
yeah, completely different to what he's done before. I instantly loved it. Some people say it has industrial influences. Well,
This and the percussion. Yeah.
yeah, is beating on an oil barrel, is that industrial? I don't know. Europe After the Rain, the down-tuned guitar on that, or Zero to None, they tuned down their guitars to, I don't know, 3 steps down, 5 steps down, something like that. I think that was awesome because it was so fucking different to what they've done before. Like I said, even back in the day, I thought Coma of Souls was a tame record. This isn't a tame record. This is straight in your face, say, okay, screw you, this is how we sound right now. And this is my number 6 in their discography. Yes, it's that high up. And I've told that before. At that time, they were smoking a lot of weed, so they just experimental. And on the original copy of the album, it won't show up on camera. Right there is something black, and on the original album it said legalize marijuana, but my copy is a Korean press, so they scratched it out, and you can still see.
Huh. Oh, mine's on there. Yeah,
the black.
It's on the CD right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I read that, legalize marijuana, and all of a sudden Kreator were my friends.
What was this ranking for you?
Number 6.
Number 6. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Alan, your thoughts on this polarizing album?
Yep. First thing I'd say is I would agree, yes, with Naseong Cho's comment here. It's a band trying to adapt to the 1990s.
Yep.
They're working on there's a few industrial elements here and there. Some people describe it as an industrial album, and I don't think that's a fair label. There's some sounds here and there for parts of it, but it's not a huge part of the album sound. That said, I was amazed when I checked and saw that this was the exact same lineup that had recorded Coma of Souls just 2 years earlier.
Yep.
If you had asked me, I would have been like, Millie just scrapped the whole lineup and he's starting over with a new group of guys. I could not believe it was the same group of musicians. I don't like anything about this album, to be very honest. And again, it's a new one to me. I played it twice, and the second time hurt. I don't like the cover art. I don't care for the industrial tidbits. Industrial is always a hard sell for me. I don't like Milla's vocals. The hardcore kind of, just shouting thing does not work for me. The drum sounds very simple and just very simple, plain, repetitive. I guess, if I dig deep, there's a few songs here and there. There's some decent riffs. A few of them towards the end of the album, they were getting a little bit faster. A lot of this album just feels like a very mid-paced slog. Even the album's title just feels like one of those, stereotypical 90s metal albums where it's a one-word title. It's supposed to be a title that kind of makes you think a little bit, renewing what? Man, I'm not sure. Didn't like anything about it at all, really. It's number 15 on my list, and it's an easy number 15, and there's like this much space between 15 and 14. So, first impression of this album is this is easily where Kreator jumps the shark for me. If I had been listening to Kreator through these classic albums, and I'd gotten to this album, this is, I can tell you for sure, I would have stopped listening to this band and I would not have revisited them for a long time.
I was mad.
This would have been a jumping off point for me, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, do not like Renewal at all. 15 with a bullet.
Yeah. When this
the only thing I'll say too, one last thing there too. Yeah, Milla's take on this album is that, revisiting himself, he made the same comment that Jurgen pointed out. They were smoking a lot at the time, and he does feel that kind of had maybe too much of an influence on the sound looking back on it. He's just like, yeah, there's things I like about the album, but there's things we could have done better but we were so in just our own, headspace that we didn't maybe pay enough attention to some things. So, it sounds like he's looking back is a bit disappointed with the album himself, but that's his take on it from interviews that I've read.
Yeah, as a weed smoker, I have to say something to that. Sure. They were not just smoking weed; they were trying out mushrooms,
doing other things too. Okay.
Yeah, doing other things and experimenting with drugs, and that is no good. But the album is a testament of its time, and I was right there, so that is why I absorbed it. I still love it.
Sure. No, and that makes sense. Yeah, and I wasn't, as I've said, I was not there for these albums, so yeah, I don't have that history with them. So Marty, Jurgen loves it. I threw up in my mouth. What are you going to do with this one?
Man, I bought this on tape when it came out. All excited. New Kreator. Woo! Man, I got home. I was offended. This is my band. And they were going into a place where I like hardcore music. I heard Millie's vocals and the hardcore shouting. It really bothered me. I thought I could not get past it. And I ended up giving the tape away to a friend, I think. And I was done with Kreator. I was done for a long time. But getting back into the YouTube stuff, Jurgen, he was one of them that championed this record, and several others. I rebought it. And maybe spun it once or twice with, I don't know. Listening to it this week, it clicked. I'm like, okay, what is wrong with me? Did too much of that Northwoods air clear my brain or whatever when I was up north? Touching Lake Superior, the waters of Lake Superior, did it change my mind? But I still don't love Millie's vocals on this, but I will say there's some really good songwriting on this album. There's some really interesting riffs, it's still within the Kreator foundation, but they're trying some little different things here and there that made me go, wow, that was kind of an interesting little transition there. Or, wow, that's a really cool riff. And, obviously the 90s, more modernity is entering into the sound. You got the beating on the oil drum. They're trying to go a little bit more Neubauten, which I know Millie's a fan of that stuff too, or throbbing gristle mixed in with it. But it's just rhythmically or some sounds here and there. They don't really fully embrace it until later. But Renewal, it's number 10 for me. That is, I figured this would be right at the swirl in the bottom, but I need to spend a little bit more time with this and maybe unlock even more, because this past car ride I had, I was listening to this album going, wow, man, there's some good shit on this record. It's just the vocals were the sticky point for me, but not bad. Number 10. I was a bit surprised. It's one of the albums in this pile that I was surprised to have a different change of heart on. But next up, 1995. So what do we got?
A 3-year gap, and a huge part of the band, Ventor, stepped out for a couple of years, and they've got Joe Cangliosi. Is that his name? Mm-hmm. He played with Whiplash, and he helped out on the Rain and Blood tour when Dave Lombardo stepped aside. Yeah. So there you go. Industrial looking cover, I would say. The sound is not industrial. It's more of the hardcore than they did before. they were getting a lot of flack for the Renewal album, and they wrote faster songs. But did it work out? No, not really. There's only one track they still play to this day, and that is Isolation, the last track. They haven't played it in 20 years, but they kept on playing this. But what got me into the album a little bit more, when it came out, I didn't like it. It would easily be my number 15. But I saw them live on that tour, and the drummer did a really good job. I never saw Kreator that tight before. So this is my number 13 now.
13.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not number 15, as many people would class that as their least favorite album.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my least favorite.
All right. And not to be noted here, this is album number 8 for them, and they're still on Noise. Talk about a deal with the devil. They sold their life away to Walterbach. 8 albums? Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's
now,
a long
this
run.
is their first on Gun, Marty.
Well, this copy I have is on Noise.
This is the reissue is on Noise Records. So I think they did a deal. They split it half and half, something like that. Because originally the German version of the album is released by Gun Records.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, that was one reason for the longer delay between albums too. They were, even around Renewal, they were pretty much fed up with being on Noise and trying to get out of that contract, which Gun ended up having to pay Walterbach a lot of money to get Kreator out of that contract. The number reported in Gelke's book, I think they had to pay about $100,000 to Walterbach to buy out the contract, so that they didn't have to put this album on Noise originally.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so, they agreed to do it in outside of Germany, or maybe outside of Europe. They did it on Noise Records, but in Europe itself, it was all on Gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got it worked out, but it did take some time and some wrangling. The band, obviously, Gun did not want to pay that much, and Walterbach's like, screw you guys, I've put a lot of money into this band over the years, and you're not. Which is true.
Sure, fair enough.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he played hardball with them, and they eventually did work something out. Anyway, so. Yeah, different drummers here when Ventora's not on board. New record label getting out from under Noise. And this one, yeah, I've heard it described as in part of their industrial phase too, and I just don't get that. There's nothing. The only industrial thing on this album, like Jurgen said, is the cover art. The rest of the album, it feels like they were sort of trying to go back to their thrash roots. Were they successful? Not entirely. There is sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue here. There's some songs that do have that little more of that hardcore punk vibe, like Bomb Threats, and they're not bad at that style. It kind of works. It's not bad. The other numbers, they're thrashy, but yet this is the one I would say that sounds tired in terms of they're still. Sure, they're going through the motions. The songs aren't awful, but it doesn't feel like there's much of a spark to it either. And whether some of that is burnout from all the contract wrangling, if some of it is Ventor missing from the equation, if some of it is, reacting to the pushback against Renewal, like you said, Jurgen, and they feel like, okay, we again, Milla's really motivated not to have this career fall apart, because he knows if it does, he's punching a time card, in a factory or a mine for the rest of his life, and he's made it a point to avoid that. So,
do you want fries with that as the name of his next album?
Exactly. Clean up on aisle 4 kind of thing.
Like that Shake Supersized?
Yeah. So he kind of dials it back away from the Renewal sound. Some folks have said too he might have done this in part because of the change of drummer. Bringing in Joan from Whiplash. Millen might have felt like, oh, I need to write stuff that this guy is going to be good at playing. So that's yet another reason to go back and write some more standard thrash. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's an okay thrash album. It's not a spectacular thrash album. I don't think it's essential. It's not one I have a ton of experience with. I ended up putting it the same place in the ranking that Jurgen did. I've got it at number 13. Grade-wise, I gave it like a C, C plus. It's like, yeah, it's average. It's not horrible, but it's nothing special either. It's average. Let's call it a C, leave it at 13, and let Marty take a crack at this one.
This is another one of those albums that I bought. I got it for $7.99 at the old New Moon Records downtown. And was really underwhelmed by it. And I'm like, okay, it's not bad. I haven't listened to it. So putting it on, I went on a little trip this week and 16 hours driving. So putting this on as another album I was very surprised by. It was the change of drummer without even looking at the liner notes. Because I've been listening to these albums in order, of course, and as soon as the first song starts off, I'm like, this isn't Ventor playing drum. I'm not discrediting Jurgen's drum skills at all, because he's a great drummer. In fact, even on the new Kreator stuff, he's rips. He's gotten better over the years, I think. Mm-hmm. But right away, like, wow, this drummer's got a lot more youthful piss and vinegar or something going on here. This album, it ended up being number 11, right behind Renewal, but it's a solid record. Someone in the chat mentioned it's like a pissed off, even more pissed off crossover album. That's kind of a pretty good description, really. But it's a little bit thrashier. It's a little faster. It's they still have the anger at the heart of it. So I don't know. I was very surprised. Like, wow, I guess I need to spend more time with this record, because it really isn't as bad as it was wrote up to be in my mind. But solid production, great drum performance. The songs are decent. Bomb Threat's a standout. Lead-off track was good. It's good. Is it, going to dethrone Extreme Aggression or even Coma of the Souls? No, it's not. But it, for, this many years in, and you're right in the 90s. You're right in the middle of the 90s, and it's tough out there. You got black metal. Is really kind of black metal is even kind of dethroning death metal a little bit in people's favor of popularity. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of extremities that have come in, which in a lot of ways made thrash seem a little bit more insignificant, even though that's not really true. But it's just hard for bands that have been toiling away since the 80s to find a spot in the 80s, in the 90s, and Kreator is trying, and they're about to falter a little bit here, in my opinion. But yep, number 11 on Cause for Conflict. This was a bit of a surprise record for me. I figured it'd be just a big meh, but I enjoyed it. It was a good record. Yeah.
Calling it a mid-90s thrash album is very apt. One of the albums it reminded me of, just kind of in terms of placement, was Testament's Low album.
Yeah.
Which came out right around this kind of same time, where it's like, it's not bad as a thrash album, but it's not one that's going to be, it doesn't compare to, what they've done in the past or a lot of the stuff they would do later on. But yeah, but at the same time, no, not terrible, not garbage.
Okay. Jurgen.
It took me 30 years to figure that out, really, until right now. I talked about the experience that I had with the live show on the Cause for Conflict. They were so furious, they were so fast, they were so tight because of their drummer. Mm-hmm. And I said their drummer helped out on the 1986 Rain in Blood tour.
Yep.
when Dave Lombardo was out of the band. Can you read that?
Grip Incorporated.
Yeah, Grip Incorporated was Dave Lombardo's band. They played together.
Ah.
Okay. Yep. I always forget Grip Incorporated existed.
You know what? I'm confused. This Joe Cagliosi, are we thinking of the same guy? I thought the dude from Whiplash tried out and was in Slayer for a hot minute.
Yeah, it's the same guy.
I'm looking at his. Active. I'm on active bands. He's in Carnivore AD and a couple others. Past bands. Yep, there's Whiplash. Okay, I was on the wrong tab. Sorry.
Mhm.
Okay.
No, it's the same guy. Yeah.
I thought his name was Tony, but I was wrong. Anyway, go ahead.
No, Tony was Whiplash's first drummer
Mm,
with a 3 Tony lineup.
right.
Okay, another 2 years until we saw the release of this little something.
Turd burger.
The cover alone looks like something. The back cover looks even more like a something. Yeah, it's Outcast. They had. This is a confused band for me. So they had a successful first period of their career, and that almost stopped. Let's put it that harsh. When they released Renewal, they were getting a lot of flack for releasing that one. Cause for Conflict didn't make it any better, and they released that. They didn't know what to do, and I can hear that on the album. It's not a total turd. I mean, the first song, Leave This World Behind, is a really, really cool song.
Yeah,
And
that's not a bad song.
They still play Phobia.
Yep, Phobia's in their lineup now.
Yeah, they haven't stopped playing Phobia since that one came out. On every show, they played every show. I can assure you. But all of the stuff that is in between, Black Sunrise is a cool song, but it's not a Kreator song. So they try to be Kreator without being Kreator. So Outcast, out of the 15 albums, this is my number 14. No, it's not my least favorite, but second to that. Just an uncertain album by a confused band.
All right. Ellen.
Yeah, this album, I had no idea it even existed until about 3 weeks ago. I'm like, going through the Kreator discography, like, okay, yep, I've checked all these out at least a couple of times. Let's work back through them. And then I'm like, what the hell is that? Had no clue this album. I've never heard of it. Had never seen it. Completely blank. Maybe if I did, I just completely blanked on its existence. So went in with absolutely zero expectations. I kind of agree with Jurgen. This is a thrash band kind of floundering around in the mid and late 90s. It's not awful. It's, they're still doing the thrash thing, but once again, it just feels kind of tired. They're trying a few different things here and there, and parts of it are okay, but overall, it's just a very underwhelming album. And the one thing that's particularly disappointing about it is, this is the point where they've brought in guitar virtuoso Tommy T. Barron from Coroner. And you would think, man, if I had been, paying attention to this in the late 90s, and I had seen that, Kreator brings in, Tommy as a new guitarist, this would have been the point I wanted to jump back in. Like I said, Renewal, I'd have been like, ciao.
I've got one word for you.
Grin.
Exactly.
But still, it'd been like, okay, let's see what Kreator can do with Tommy, and they don't do anything with him.
Oh no.
It really does feel like one of the great wasted opportunities that you bring in somebody with that kind of legacy, as a top-notch guitar player, and you have him playing very straightforward, kind of mediocre stuff. You never let him off the chain on this album, and it's just like, but what if you just wanted somebody to play these particular riffs and chords? You could have gotten anybody almost to do that. Why would you bring in that kind of talent and not utilize it?
You could have brought Ventor back and put him on guitar and come up with some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's Skeleton on Your Shoulder? Where's Reborn Through Hate? Where's,
Yeah, you know what the man's capable of, and why are you not letting him do it? So, yeah, it would have been a huge disappointment at the time. Anyway, Jurgen put it one step lower than Cause for Conflict. I put it one step higher at number 12, but really, you could flip-flop these and it wouldn't matter too much to me. So, yeah, we're as Rick said earlier, we're in that difficult, 90s phase that almost all thrash bands had to go through, it seems. Number 12 for me. I'll call it a C. It's maybe average, maybe a little above, maybe a little below. Doesn't really matter. It's not an album that needs to be revisited a ton, I don't think. Marty, you were surprised by Cause for Conflict. Were you surprised when you revisited Outcast?
No, and it's funny because I was listening to it. I was driving into the Northwoods. I'm listening to this record. I'm like, this is Kreator's Grin album. I said it out loud in the car by myself. I said, they got Tommy and the band, and make no mistake, Corner is one of my favorite early thrash bands. Their first 4 albums, Mental Vortex, they started to simplify a bit, but the songs were still really good. They still had technical flair in the riffs. Grin came out. I didn't know, and it's funny because who said it? Scott Nick. He said, it's a great album. Got here. I've heard people throughout the years saying how much they love Grin. I'm wondering if that's where they jumped in on the band at, because that's typically a big. If you haven't heard the greatness that came before it, maybe it is a good record. And I've often told myself I need to revisit that record because I haven't since the day I bought it. I've maybe spun it a handful of times, but it sucks. I can't. It's so simplistic and away from what they were doing, but that's the vibe I get from this record. There's a couple, Phobia, Leave This World Behind. There's a couple decent songs on here, but it's just a band kind of spinning their wheels. First and foremost, I did come away with this on the album that comes out after this. As an older guy looking back on Kreator's career and having a little bit more maturity, I can process maybe a little bit. I applaud him for trying something new. But I've also saw something recently where this album and Endorama, which came out after it, they were only selling a fraction of the records they were selling before these albums came out. Mm-hmm. So I respect them for testing the waters and trying something new, but it's a fail. If this is their Grin album, the next album to me is their In the Pandemonium, which again is another. That album to me is a mess, and the album that comes out after this is a mess as well. But this album here, it's 14 out of 15 for me. It's just this is Coma Souls had hints of fatigue. This is just tired and not knowing what to do. Where Jurgen was very right. They didn't know where to go, what to do. So they're just trying some new stuff. This is 1997. Obviously, playing thrash metal in 1997 isn't as cool as being in Dimmuborger or Emperor or, whatever turbo speed death metal band is out at the time, Nile or whatever. So the renaissance of thrash would come a bit later, which is coming. We'll get there. But yep, number 14 for me. Jurgen, I'll be right back. I need to use the boys' room.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the Outcast tour, I saw them, and they were back to playing 400 or 500 seats clubs. So not very successful. I see Outcast as a transitional album. This next one will be a little bit more controversial, I think. So in 1999, I can totally see why Marty is taking a piss right now, because he doesn't want to hear what I have to say about that album. So Endorama is a totally different beast. Mm-hmm. On Outcast, they tried to sound like Kreator, but they didn't really get it. On that one, they consequently stepped away of sounding like Kreator. This is it a gothic album? Is it a hard rock album? Is it I don't know. What would you class that? It's definitely not a thrash metal album.
No.
Is it
Not
even
at
a metal album? I don't know. But I have to say, if you I've done a Kreator ranking video and I said Endorama is my least favorite. I don't even care about it. So 5 years ago, I haven't heard the full album. Now I got the reissue because I'm a completist and I listened to it a couple of times. And in the last couple of months, I listened to it a lot more. And I really, really started to like the album because it's a consequent step aside. So they were not even trying to pretend they are Kreator. Even you have the logo on it. It's not a Kreator album, but it's a very cool album. I really, really started to like that one.
I like the artwork, actually. It's a pretty cool cover.
Yeah, it's done by a guy that I know. Yeah, he did some artwork about 5 years before that for my old band. But the songs on it, Golden Age, Endorama, Shadowlands, great stuff. Passage to Babylon, Future Ring, great songs on the album. And like I said, it's a consequent step aside from what they did before and what they would have done all throughout their career after that. So Endorama would have been 5 years ago my number 15. Now it's grown up to number 11.
Okay.
And as I said, on
Hey, happy birthday, belated birthday to Aaron here, the metal theologian. It was this week. Cheers and happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Old fart.
and like I said, on the Outcast tour, they were going back to playing 400 to 500 crowds. So consequently, after the release of the album in Germany, they were supporting Moonspell.
Wow.
But just look at who they're trying to rub elbows with, though. Moonspell has gothic elements. Catatonia moved into more of a gothic vibe, and as did Kreator.
Yes.
Yep.
And at that show, they played only 4 of the old tracks. So only Outcast and Endorama tracks. Apart from 4, I think they did Terrible Certainty. They did Phobia, of course. I don't know what else, but only 4 tracks. I counted them.
Wow.
And there is a biography about Kreator. I think it only was issued in Germany. It's in a German language by a German author. And the book starts with the beginning of 2000 when Kreator came home from that tour. And the book starts, a 32-year-old guy with his guitar came home and didn't know what to do. That says it all. They were disillusioned after releasing
their
that
record
album.
sales had tanked bad. I mean, it was not good. All the I got a promo of the album when that came out, and a little promo sleeve, and I had nothing good to say about it then, and a lot of people didn't. A handful liked it, but all right. Alan, what were your thoughts on Endorama?
Yeah, I knew this album by reputation, but maybe I heard it once upon a time. If so, it was too far back to put any stock in. So again, hearing it with a sort of new pair of ears here in the past few weeks. It's the last one that Tommy's on for guitar, and once again, yeah, they're not utilizing his talent. For whatever reason, that idea just did not work out. And yeah, another band I think that's worth mentioning here, Kreator earlier in the 90s had been touring with Paradise Lost at times.
Mhm.
And this to me sounds like maybe some of that influence rubbed off. That more mid 90s when Paradise Lost, like the 1 second and, subsequent albums when they started getting out of their Peaceville 3 sound and more into that slightly electronic goth kind of vibe, which, some people like for Paradise Lost and some people don't. So, yeah, it's more of a goth record than anything else. It's miles and miles away from the thrash zone. It's just not there. As a Kreator album, it's not very good.
No.
This is not what pretty much anyone wants or wanted to hear Kreator do. I understand the reaction to it and why people crap on this album a lot. However, to Jurgen's point, it's not a bad gothic rock album. If you did take that Kreator logo off, Rick was joking in the comments, yeah, take that logo off and put like a November's Doom logo or something on it, or a Rapture logo. People might not know the difference, and they might not be so harsh on it. The music here, in that vein, it works okay. I didn't spend a lot of time with this one. I spun it a couple of times and moved on. But I was at least left with the impression, like, if I was in the mood for that style and I just didn't want to hear Paradise Lost, I could play this and, it might work okay.
That's an insult to November's Doom.
And November's Doom deserves to be insulted. I never got into that band very much. But, so, yeah, not a good Kreator record, but not a bad gothic rock album is the bottom line I'm going to give it. I have it ranked 14th, but as I said, a lot higher up than number 15. This is much closer. See this one, give me a few years of playing this one, and I'll bet it would creep ahead of both Cause for Conflict and Outcast, which I've already ranked at 13 and 12. So I could see this one, yeah, creeping up to like, the 12 or 11 slot over time, because it is a style, goth rock stuff. It's a style I will listen to, not very often, but I do get in the mood for it sometimes. And I think in that vein, the album is passable. So it's not that they didn't fail musically; they just failed to make something that people wanted to hear Kreator do musically. I think somebody mentioned a while back, some of this stuff just sounds like it might have worked better as a side project. If this is really what Miller wanted to do, that was fine, but maybe he needed his own sort of nail bomb side project so that it didn't have to get released under the main band's name. That could have been a very hard sell to have gotten it out under a different name, though, too. Kreator's name at least had some currency to it, even this late in the 90s. So yeah, 14, but I'll still give it at least a C. I don't think it's horrible music. I just think it's not something I want to hear Kreator do. So Marty, where do you weigh in on this rather controversial album?
Well, I was way less kind when I got it in the mail back in the day as a promo, and it was god awful. And you're right. The biggest problem with this record is the fact that it has Kreator's logo at the top of it. Just is. And nowadays, putting it on, spinning it, this is still my number 15. Don't get me wrong, but where bands like Paradise Lost or Cemetery or Sentenced, who deviated from something more extreme and went into more gothic areas of expression, for some reason, for bands like that, it worked. They did a really good job with it. Kreator doing it, it just seemed very foreign, very wrong. It seemed wrong. Like Endorama itself is not a bad song. It's a good song. You got a lot of impressive tools in your arsenal playing on this record. No one's being used. Nothing's happening. It's just kind of lopes along. I listened to the whole album. I didn't hate it. And again, I applaud the wanting to try to do something different. But at this point in the career, and the album sales tanking, your fan base isn't with you on that journey. They don't care. They don't we all like to think that I'm a musician. I write music for myself, but when the rubber hits the road, if you're not selling records, and you put this record next to Endless Pain,
Yeah.
there's no. How did you get from point A to point B?
We'll put it next to Extreme Aggression, where you were being distributed by Epic.
Yeah. Still, exactly. And how did you get there from here? And really, the only real indication of where this was going is the boring record before it. So it's a total left turn for the band. It kind of, it would have been interesting to see them maybe nurture this and to see where it could go. But as a band, a thrash band from the 80s playing stuff like this, it is like dumping a cup of water in a quart of oil. It just doesn't, there's the gel, it just doesn't gel for me. So yeah, 15. But I will say, having Outcast and Endorama happen, seeing a band at their worst, I think it gave people a lot of hope and respect for when they righted the ship, which I think we're going to get into right here. What did you think about their next album?
Marty, before we jump to that, just not to go off on a real tangent, but you made an interesting point there. Some of those other bands you mentioned, like Paradise Lost, where they kind of, drifted off into that style. A lot of people quit the band at that point, but a lot of people do like those eras of those bands too. Mm-hmm. Is part of the reason this Endorama is disliked so much because it was a one and done. That Kreator tried it, people were like, yeah, what's that? And they backed out and they never did it again. If Kreator had stayed with it, like you said, and tried to develop it some, do you think they could have gotten over with that sound the way Paradise Lost and some of those bands did? Or was it doomed to failure, whether they stuck with it and wrote it out or not?
Even Paradise Lost early on, the first two albums, there's gothic elements in those albums. So the seeds are already sprinkled. It's a very different
style of gothic.
But it's still, it's there. And Kreator, there's none, it just seems too, it just seems too out of place for me. What do you think, Jurgen?
Yeah, but even Paradise Lost didn't get away with that for too long.
Yeah, they came back.
That is just
much more gradually. Yeah,
I was spinning that yesterday.
Mm-hmm. It's a good record.
That's one of the later albums.
The one before it's really good too.
Yeah, they're good. And what do you call them? Is that still a gothic band? For me, it's just plain doom metal. Period.
Yeah,
I really like that stuff. So Paradise Lost got back to. Well, they didn't go back, but they combined what they did before, and I don't know.
And it was kind of a gradual transition with Paradise Lost over a bunch of albums. It wasn't a like, oops, we got to go right back and do another gothic, or another. Well, gothic would be the album, everybody would want from them, or another Draconian Times. They didn't jump right back to that style immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no way to know. It just was interesting when Marty brought that up. I was like, yeah. I wonder if they had, if there were 3 more albums like this, if folks would have eventually accepted Kreator.
They would have broke up.
Gothic project.
They would have been done.
Maybe.
Nowadays, even Millie says if he could go back in time, he wouldn't release Endorama as a Kreator album. But it was very important, and I think you can hear that on the newer stuff as well. It was important for the future career of what Kreator became.
It made him realize what he had to do and what Kreator was, and like I said, it takes some negative reinforcement to get someone back on track. And I think between the press and the fan reception, I think he got his message pretty loud and clear.
Yeah.
Which so brings now us to 2001.
2001, yeah. So in 2000, they came back from the tour, and Millie was disillusioned what would happen in the future. You've talked about that on the Testament stream, and you've talked about that on the Overkill stream you did. Remember that suit and tie guy from Nuclear Blast coming by and offering you a deal?
Yep.
That is pretty much what we see here, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steamhammer has one of those guys too, it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got back to where not where they started, but back to when they were really, really popular. You can see that on the cover artwork. They use the Violent Mind again.
Yep.
The first song is called Reconquering the Throne. So,
Yep.
would you question what their aim was with that album? They used Andy Sneap for that, and Andy Sneap. We can discuss Andy Sneap productions, but on that one, he did a really, really good job. It sounds quite natural, in my opinion.
Yep.
Songwriting is great on that one. It's a long album, but yeah, they released it. I never owned the CD, so they released it as a double album. And when I'm fed up with side one, I just pull it out at some point and throw on side two. And Slave Machinery, Mind on Fire, and System Decay are great songs that are just buried at the end of a 60-minute album.
Mm-hmm.
So the albums are getting longer, and even on that one, you can see that the evolution with Outkast and Andorama was important or helpful in their songwriting skills. This one might surprise some of you. This is my number 5 in their discography.
Number 5. Interesting.
I really, really love that album now.
All right.
Kill me for that.
No, it's a good record. 100%. Alan, what were your thoughts on Millie's apology letter to his fans?
Yeah, this is one I'm a little more familiar with. I picked it up a year or so ago, I think. It's okay. It does what it needed to do. Like Jurgen said, it got them back on track. It's everything, yes, from the title of the album, the title of the first song, the choice of cover art. It's all meant to try to win back a fan base that had all but evaporated. And it does so. It delivers enough of really good, solid thrash that it got people to come back around to the band. I don't think it's an amazing album. It is too damn long.
It is too long. That's a problem with thrash in or all albums in
we've discussed
early 2000s.
Overkill, yes. All these bands when they come back,
think about it though.
Look at
their early career.
Mm-hmm.
What mainly changed is the joy of the EP or the single.
Mm-hmm.
If Iron Maiden were putting out back in the day, around Power Slave, you had Ace's High single, you had 2 Minutes to Midnight single, had their own artwork, it had bonus shit on it. They were fun to buy, and it really fed the collectors. Now, these bands write up 60 minutes, 70 minutes worth of shit, and they put it all on the album instead of breaking. If they would have broke up Violent Revolution and a lot of these records and cut off 2 songs, put it on a single, I mean, how much more mileage would that have been? It'd been great.
I agree. Yep. And part of it was, the change in format. CD is the dominant format at this point in history. And so I suppose people feel like a CD holds 79 minutes. We ought to fill most of that to get people to buy it and justify charging, $14.99 for it. But yeah, still, the album's just too long, which means, filler tracks start creeping in. There's, good songs on it. It's not my favorite. I've got it ranked 11th. But, it accomplished what it needed to. It got the band back on track, got them a new label with Steamhammer, a label, that, Gun Records, for all their promise, doesn't seem to have really quite worked out. They basically were trying to relaunch the careers of noise bands at the worst possible time. But, Steamhammer picks them up. brushes them off, he gets them back in front of the right audience, and so yeah, the album does what it needed to. Mission accomplished there. Did I have anything else I wanted to say about this one? Just checking notes over here, but no, that's about it. And not their best album, certainly not their worst, but at least it put them back on the map. Number 11 for me, I grade it, somewhere like C plus, B minus kind of territory. Marty, you seem to like this one. What you gonna do with it ranking wise?
When it came out, I liked it, and listening to it again in the car this week, I think I still like it. I think the songwriting is largely very good, but there's 12 songs on this thing. They all range from 4 minutes to 7. There's a lot of songs, and you just have to kind of come to the realization with Kreator starting from here on out that you're going to get a lot of the same, and that could be seen as a bad thing. But here I'm saying he's in he signed the contract with the suit and tie guy saying you have to put out this many albums. They have to be old thrash, and he's doing it. But he's doing a good job. Kreator, they're doing a good job with this. It's really well written stuff. It's got the right intensity. It's got a really good production. But I mean, it's kind of like the second verse, same as the first type of thing. It's there starts to be an aura of sameness that permeates some of these records. But I did enjoy this. I put this at number 7. And I think this is what he needed to do. This needed to happen, or Kreator would be done, or it'd be another band. I know why Endorama come out as a Kreator album. It's the same reason why Black Star came out as a Black Sabbath record, or Circus Maximus came out as a Manila Road record. It sucks starting a band from scratch. If you got this band with such a your brand has such a notoriety, and then you all of a sudden change your name to something different. It's like Kerry King. Yeah, I mean, he's got a bit of a leg up, but still, it's still a new band. Even though his music still sounds like later day Slayer, it takes a hit. And I see why he did Endorama under Kreator, but this is what he needed to be doing. And it took an Endorama for him to get back to this. So, yep, number 7 for me. Which leaves us... Go ahead.
I know it's a long album. I see it as like I said, I never owned the CD. I just had the vinyl, and I did it like that. It is a 2-part album for me.
Yeah, it's 2 different albums. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 different albums, yeah. It's 2 30-minute albums.
Yeah, but when this is in the vehicle going, you're looking at the time like, okay, here's another song. Okay, here's another song. It sounded like the song before. It's like, man, when is this fucker going to end? Come on,
Yeah.
And yeah, just answering David's question here. Yes, you're right, David. This is where Sammy came in on guitar replacing Tommy, and that seems to have worked out pretty well for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You said Kerry King has a leg up. He has a leg up like a dog just because he had to piss.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't care less for that Kerry King album.
I could care less either, but I feel bad for the guy because just because Tom Araya was ready to retire doesn't mean he was. What are you gonna do? Like, oh, the voice of the band left. Now what do I do? Get a guy to replace him? I guess he could have. Anyway.
Okay, so a 4-year, not a break, because that album went big.
Yep.
It was the return for the band, and they did a live album. They played all over the world multiple times for that one. They went on tour with the German Big Three back then, with Sodom and Destruction. Yeah.
And like Destruction's coming back, and getting their second wind right around this same time with Antichrist.
And their comeback was good. I mean, that was a good comeback, I thought.
Yes, Sodom had M16 out, one of their, in my opinion, best albums.
Yep, that one's beloved.
So yeah, 4 years on the road for the band, and after that, they brought out Enemy of God. Again, a little bit of the same on the cover here. This is a band who knows what to do. It is a cool album. I know a couple of people ranked this as their favorite. Again, this is a little bit too long.
It's shorter than Violent Revolution.
Not by much.
By a minute. By a minute.
Not much shorter. So I couldn't do the part 1 and part 2 thing with that one. Either I listen to it as a whole or I don't listen to it at all.
Wow, Aaron, you're number 2. Wow. Impressive. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Whoa.
Whoa.
Aaron, hast du wieder angefangen zu kiffen? Das muss jetzt auf Deutsch sein. Entschuldigung.
How dare you say that about Aaron's mother? The lady's a saint.
This one in my ranking is number 7. It's pretty much in the. Ja, ich weiß. This one is pretty much in the middle of that discography for me. Number 7. Nochmal, Aaron, ich weiß eigentlich gar nicht, warum wir hier das Creator-Ranking auf Englisch machen und nicht auf Deutsch. Weil das ist eigentlich eine deutsche Band, also. Ich mache jetzt einfach auf Deutsch weiter.
Aaron, you going to take that from him? Man, Jurgen, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
All right.
I'm done.
Let's see. Alan, your thoughts on Enemy of God?
Yeah. I think the Destruction comeback and the Kreator comeback are kind of paralleling each other here a little bit in terms of, like, for me, Violent Revolution is like, okay, it gets them back on the map. And then this album really, really delivers full throttle. The same with that, Antichrist, kind of the second Destruction comeback album. It really shows the band is, comfortable, back where they belong. So, yeah, very good album. Like it a lot. I think the songwriting stuff for me, it's a step up. It just everything feels a bit of a step up from Violent Revolution. More energy, more confidence. Really, my only complaint with the album is, once again, this album is too damn long. You just par it back down a little bit. I start out with this album, listening to it, loving it. Middle, still going strong. Get about 45 minutes in, it's like, damn, this thing's still going. It wears me out a little bit, so I feel like it loses steam. I don't know if the album's losing steam by the end or if I'm just losing steam by the end, because it's a rather long listen. The other thing that the band is doing here that we didn't talk about with Violent Revolution, but it's definitely becoming more of their sound here with Sammy and the band, they are getting more melodic. There's a stronger melodic element working its way in, and that's going to continue moving forward. It's not really a spoiler alert. I think we all know that's happening. But yeah, it's still a very good album. Liked it a lot. This is one I had no prior experience with before this project, but I liked it a lot. After the first couple of listens, I had it ranked as high as number 5 at one point. A couple more listens, the length of it did start to wear on me, and a couple of other albums, it just sounded a lot of just being the length. It's just like, this is more suited to the music. So I ended up putting it exactly the same place Jurgen did at number 7. But even though we're kind of in the middle of the discography, I like this album. If I go to the used record store tomorrow and there's a copy of it sitting there, it's coming home with me. I don't even have to think about it. So I'll automatically pick it up and go home with it. So yeah, good album. The band is back. All cylinders are burning. You just gotta reel it in there a little bit in terms of the album length, which they're going to do on the next one. But Marty gets a chance to talk about Enemy of God before we move to that album.
In the ranking, from the ranking perspective, I went back and forth on this and Violent Revolution 6 and 7, flip flop, flip flop, flip flop. This ended up being my number 6. I listened to this immediately after Violent Revolution on my car ride, and it feels like earlier Kreator. They have a bit of a passion and fire to them on this record, and the production is tighter. And just it sounds like older Kreator production wise, which I thought, I mean, the Violent Revolution had a great production, no complaints, but put this on immediately after it, it just tightened it up even more and made it feel more ready to explode. I really, really like this record. Even though it is 55 minutes, 48 seconds, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me. It's just very well done. A lot of energy, a lot of piss and vinegar on here. World Anarchy is a good one. Murder Fantasies. You're starting to really try to pull at different kind of topics here and there. But Enemy of God is a great firing off the album really well. I dig it. I dig this record. But really, from here on out, you have to resign yourself to the fact that this is what Kreator is going to be doing, which is fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's kind of what they're in this road, and it's taken them further probably than they've been in many, many years ever. I mean, they're probably playing bigger shows now than they ever did. So
that new contract says no fooling around anymore, boys. Yeah. You stay in your lane. We're putting you back on the road now. You keep it in the lane.
Throw your Sisters of Mercy records in the garbage and don't come at us with that shit ever again. Yeah.
Lose the Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, the suit and tie guy is behind every door, watching your every step.
Yep. Just not thrashy enough, Millie. Sorry. Yep.
So, another, like Marty said, they were playing bigger shows. They were playing longer tours. They were playing all over the world. They were not like headliner status on big festivals here in Europe, but they were booked constantly over the summer period here in Germany with that album. And that brings us to 2009's Hearts of Chaos. Now,
the only Kreator album I don't own. I don't have it yet. I'll get it eventually. This hasn't turned up yet. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
You need to get it.
Yeah.
This of the, let's call it new Kreator, is my favorite album by them. I love the sound on it. You know the story behind that? They recorded it live in the studio, all the backing tracks. So they recorded the drums, the bass, and the rhythm guitars all at once. And you can hear, like on the old stuff, listen closely, you can hear mistakes on that album. And I love that. And it has a little bit of a live vibe if you know about that. And we're back to a one album release. It has 10 songs. It's about, I don't know exactly, but 45 minutes.
I can tell you, I have it down.
38 minutes. It is 20 minutes shorter than the past couple of albums we're pushing, almost.
That goes a long way. Yeah.
The songs on that are so great. They are well written. They are pretty short. I mean, Hearts of Chaos, they have a breakdown part. I hate breakdowns. But in this case, it's done perfect. Walkers, Amok Run, Destroy What Destroys You, Absolute Misanthropy. The closing with Demon Prince is a little bit of harkening back to where they were with the Outcast stuff, but done way, way better. So this one has a variety to it, and the songwriting is great, perfect length. In the discography, this is my number 4.
Number 4. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Alan.
All right. I'm on a similar page to Jurgen. Amongst the sort of save Kreator, this is my favorite. And as you said, Marty, the length goes a long way here.
Yep.
The fact that you have 10 songs, but it is under 40 minutes, everything just feels more impactful. And you get to the end of the album, it's just like, I want to play that again. Not like, okay, we made it. Yeah, very good set of songs. I feel like the production might be just a little gruffer than on Enemy of God. I like Enemy of God's production. It's pretty clean sounding, though. This one feels like maybe it's just, a little roughed up around the edges, which suits the musical style absolutely fine. So, yeah, very good set of songs. The band is just kind of going from strength to strength to strength on these comeback albums. Now, I also agree with your point, though, Marty. It's not like they're rapidly evolving anymore.
No.
They're getting comfortable, and they're going to stay there. And so these albums, can start to get interchangeable. But yeah, just the fact that this one manages to feel very aggressive. They keep it to a very solid length. For me, I ranked it number 5. It went up a few notches as I played it more and more because I really did appreciate how compact it was. Not just the length, but yeah, just again, really high quality songs, but they didn't overstay their welcome at all. So, number 5, best of their albums in the 2000s on my first visit through a lot of these albums. Yeah, it's an interesting one because folks in the chat are all over. It's being ranked from number 1 down to number 13. So folks are very all over the board with this particular one. Marty, where are you at? Where are you putting it on the board?
Well, this is the only Kreator album I don't own. So this week in the vehicle, after spinning 3 or 4 albums before it, I was kind of burnt out on Kreator. I won't lie. And I ranked it number 12. It seemed I focused on the production. I really liked the production of Enemy of God. It had a tightness to it. Hordes of Chaos had more of a roomy vibe to it, which Jurgen said they play it live, which would make sense how they captured it. So the songs, I was just weary at this point. So this is one I'll eventually track down and get a copy and spend more time with it. But right now, there's nothing out of place or bad or wrong about it. It just, it's my least familiar. I didn't have time to spin it a second or third time. So that's where I'm at. Number 12 on that one. But which leads us to 3 years later.
Wait a minute.
Oh, hold on. Hold the phone. Stop. Hammer time.
Yeah. If you want to listen to I've seen Kreator, I don't know, 25 times, 30 times, something like that, because they play at every power socket we have here.
Yeah. Are you always excited to see them, though, when you do see them?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Listen to this. They were playing the Rock Hard Festival in 2010, and I'm gonna read you the track list.
That Rock Hard Festival looks like a cool venue. That amphitheater type of thing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I love it there. You can sit down. You can have a beer, and you can go down into the pit.
Yep.
As long as you want. The beer is right available in 2 minutes. So,
Nice.
I'm gonna read you the track list. So they started with the intro, Choir of the Damned.
Aha.
The Pestilence as the first song.
Nice. Were you at the show?
Yeah. You can watch a live clip on YouTube. Not a live clip, the whole concert. Then Hordes of Chaos, Phobia, Enemy of God, Impossible Brutality, Endless Pain, Pleasure to Kill, Terrible Certainty, Extreme Aggressions, Coma of Souls, Amok Run, Violent Revolution, Demon Prince, When the Sun Burns Red,
Oh,
Flag
man.
of Fate, and Tormentor. So
Wow.
That's
a
a
perfect-
loaded track list.
and just listen to the opening when they did the Pestilence. he was right back, and the venue in Gelsenkirchen where the Rock Hard Festival takes place. Millie goes there by bike because
Close to home.
yeah, it's his own home audience. So that is just a small step aside.
Wow.
Okay, 2012 saw the release of Phantom Antichrist.
I like the cover. I like the cover art. It's a little bit different from what they've been doing. It's cool.
Yeah. In the beginning, we were talking how much can you sing about demons and the Antichrist and monsters and quoting Kreator on their first album, Green and Red Monsters Torment Your Mind.
They-
They got back to it, and that is what I don't understand. You don't have to. They did it well for the last 3 albums, and now they are starting to put something like Antichrist. The word Antichrist doesn't fit that fucking band. I'm gonna ramble on about that on the next releases.
Yep.
The album itself is not bad. Again, it's a longer album. The songs were getting longer. You had some more Outcast influences on that. It's getting more melodic. I can totally see that because the festival audience wants catchy songs with repetitive verses and repetitive choruses. This is not a bad album. This is my number 9 out of 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Phantom Antichrist is a cool song. Death to the World is okay. Yeah. Civilization Collapse is okay. But you can see this is an album for a bigger audience. And that is where I kind of bail out.
All right. Alan, Phantom Antichrist.
Sorry, just fixing something on my monitor here for a moment. There we go. Yeah, this one is definitely, as some folks have been saying in the chat, it feels like this is where that melodic element we mentioned a couple of albums back starting to take over a little bit. That you're getting, yes, more songs that feel like they're meant to be the big chant along type things meant for a larger live environment, just to get everybody, everybody raise your lighter, beer, horns, or hook, whatever's attached to your hand right now, and keep repeating the chorus with us over and over. But that said, this is not a bad album, and these are not bad songs. This is the only one of the newer Kreator albums that I've had for a longer period of time. It showed up randomly in the used bin, I don't know, a year and a half, might have been as much as 2 years ago. That's probably not quite that long. And so, yeah, it's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll pay $7-8 for a used Kreator album and check it out. And I liked it quite a bit.
Well, they moved from Steam Hammer to Nuclear Blast at this point.
Oh, this is where they're back over on
This is on Nuclear Blast, yep.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Hordes of Chaos might have. I don't own that, so I don't know what label.
No,
what label?
no.
No, Hordes is still
Okay,
in Steam.
it's SPV.
FTV, okay. Well, this
Yes,
one here is
Hammer
on
is
Nuclear
FTV.
Blast.
Okay, so yeah, they come back over. They come to Nuclear Blast, and yeah, they're doing something that I get why some people, yeah, like you're gonna say, maybe start to check out here a little bit, because you are replacing some of that old aggression and viciousness with more melody. The songwriting's maybe getting a little more streamlined and a little more crowd friendly. I think Kreator do it very well. I like them a lot better than some of the other bands they get compared to that are doing it. And I don't really agree with the idea that it sounds like melodic death metal. Yes, there's a comparison maybe that they're, just in terms of accessibility. I don't think Kreator turned into a melodic death metal band, though. I think this still sounds just like a thrash metal band. It's just a thrash metal band that's leaning towards, again, something that has a little more of a melodic sound to it. This doesn't sound like In Flames or At the Gates or anything of that nature in my mind. It doesn't sound like newer melodic death metal bands either to me. And it's kind of funny because when we've touched on this throughout the catalog, when people disparage Kreator albums, I get why they don't like them, but I just don't agree with the tags they put on them. I don't think Renewal sounds like an industrial album. I don't think those middle 90s albums sound really all that experimental or industrial. I don't think this one sounds like a melodic death album. It's a little change. They're tweaking the knobs here, and so different sounds are becoming more prominent. Still a good album. I had it ranked as number 6, I believe. Yeah, I've got it at 6. It's one that could easily, though, you could flip-flop like this, and move Enemy of God up a notch, move this one down a notch. It's very, very close in here in this part of the catalog for me. So I put it at number 6. I give it a B, maybe a B+. So we're talking 8 out of 10, plus or minus a little bit. So, Marty, interested to hear your thoughts on Phantom Antichrist.
Really, Zachary saying Kreator goes festival metal. That's very apropos on this stuff. It's it starts to be, their evolution is starting to show here. They're starting to show more of a Swedish melodeath vibe I get on here, especially on the next album for sure. But Phantom Antichrist it's very good. It's a good album. It's right in the 42-minute zone, which isn't a bad run time for an album. I ranked this number 8. I did not have any problems with it other than I had consumed very many Kreator albums in a 16-hour span of time. My dog is thinking she sees something. Shut up. No. I like the cover art. I think it's a good album. I think Kreator is a good band. They've established themselves as back. They're in their zone. They're starting to branch out a bit. They're becoming more melodic. Hey, Tip Fam. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate you so much. Thank you. You're here with us week in and week out. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, number 8 for me. No problems with this record other than I need to listen to this, just pull it off the shelf and spin it, as opposed to being in a marathon situation. That does impact this a little bit. But yeah, I dig it. Good album. Jurgen, that brings us to 2017.
Yes, another 5-year gap of touring and establishing the band, playing many festivals over a couple of years. The Phantom Antichrist tour was great. They released a live album. I'm not going to talk about that. But 2017 saw the release of Gods of Violence. I hate the cover artwork.
Mine's different.
Yeah, that is the US version. This is the European version, yeah.
Okay, I've only seen your version, Jurgen. Marty, what's yours look like? Do you have it with you?
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Oh, okay, I have seen that somewhere before. Okay.
So now we have this is my least favorite Kreator album.
The melody, the more sweet death type of vibe.
Yeah, it's sing-along metal. It's in Germany you would call it Schlager metal. This is I can't express my hate for that album. I just don't like it. I don't know. Satan is real. There you go. Why would you? And right around that time, they released a single with 666, World Divided, and what else? Fallen Brother. Bleh. Hail to the hordes. Hail. Kreator goes Manowar. I just can't stand that album. I don't know what to say more. I just own it because I'm a completist. So, yeah. My least favorite.
The Hail to the Hordes, and this is when we saying goodbye to old dead friends. And I don't know. I got listening to this. Some of the lyrics kind of put me in mind of a guy starting to kind of come to grips with his age, and some more personal. There was some cheesy shit in here, but there was some more personal stuff too. You know, as far as trying to process death and all that crap.
Not for me.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. All right.
Yeah,
Alan.
yeah. Keep going on with that. Keep going on with that 666 Antichrist shit you're doing.
Who cares, right? Yeah. All right. Alan, your thoughts on Gods of Violence. Butterfly, chill out.
Yeah, don't have a lot to say about this one. I didn't mind it as much as Jurgen. I wrote down that, a lot of these songs, they're, pretty fast. There's good melodies to them. They are good sing-along songs. Yeah, but my notes I also put but I think they also are probably getting too melodic at this point. And as such, I see why it's not going to click with some folks. So like we said, they've been kind of, steadily moving in this direction ever since Violent Revolution. And this might be the point where, they've gone a little too far in that direction. Didn't hate the album at all. Again, I thought it had some good numbers on it, like Army of Storms. So it's got, some speed. It's, fun to listen to. But again, it may be fun in a way that doesn't quite work for Kreator, or at least for, part of their fan base. So I would get that. I ranked it number 9. It's the lowest ranking of any of the albums post Violent Revolution for me. So not a terrible record for me, but I get why some people are not going to be into this phase of Kreator. So in terms of a grade, it's probably starting out as like a B. More time, it might, I could see where this one could dip down into like that B- category where it's just too melodic. Or maybe it hangs out in the B category. Not sure. I don't think it has much room to move up, though. Marty, what's your take on this one?
Well, for me, I'm a fan of power metal. I just am. I like catchy choruses. I get the whole festival, Kreator goes festival metal. Yeah, I mean, now I've watched some recent-ish live stuff where he's basically, every time there's a music break, he's hollering at people to start a circle pit. If you have to remind people to get into a circle pit, maybe that's a problem. But
it's better than reminding them to get into a circle jerk.
Oh, man, right. But, I rank this number 9. I think it's a solid record. It does have a bit more, the catchy choruses, the shout along type choruses, kind of maybe Milla trying to find his way through some more melodic power metal or stuff like that. It works okay for them. I don't know that I love it, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But yeah, that was 2017. We have a pandemic. 17, 18, 19, 21. 5 years, the biggest gap there has been in albums for them.
Yep. But yes, understandable given what's happening in the world in those years.
I have a feeling if he didn't like Gods of Violence, Hey Uber Alice is not going to change his mind much either.
But Gods of Violence, you can't minus top that. Okay.
Hey, Dave, thank you so much for that super chat. You're too kind. Cheers.
Thank you, Dave. Hey, new wave of British heavy metal fan. All right.
Right on.
All right. In 2022, they came out with that album, Hate über alles. It's not über alles, it's über alles. A little bit of a generic artwork. It kind of looks cool. The album is a little bit shorter and a little bit more to the point, but they still do stuff like Killer of Jesus and what was the other one, Demonic Future. I think that doesn't fit with Kreator anymore. I don't know. Are they trying to keep the flag of metal high with singing about stuff like that? They've done great lyrics in the late 80s, in the 90s, even in the 2000s, but they don't need to do that. It's just pleasing the crowds to get a sing along. This is not a bad album. I was quite surprised when I got that. I heard the song "Hate über alles" and it was kind of cool at first. I slacked it off because it was a little bit of the same as on the last album. But the album overall, it's not a bad album. I like, actually, apart from Gods of Violence, I like every Kreator album. This is not a bad album. This is my number 12.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, I also like this album. It's not their best, but it's far from their worst. I ranked it number 8. I think the album starts with some pretty good songs, and then it kind of plateaus a bit. So it's not like the songs dip or fall off. It's just like, yeah, this opens really strong. You're getting into it, and then for the rest of the album, it stays pretty level. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. People were of two minds of it. And yeah, I get what you're saying, Jurgen, about the lyrical content. And I don't know why that is either, that they felt the need to kind of go back in that direction. All I can think of is, that whole kind of, anti-religious thing that is always going to have a market among heavy metal fans. You get up there and do like, Catholic Despot or Killer of Jesus, and a whole bunch of metalheads are going to stop talking and rush back up to the stage and start, having at it again. There is a crowd that will always, start throwing money at you when you've got that kind of content, even if you've been doing it for a long time. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just a known quantity. We've talked about it all night where, Milo has always wanted to keep this project going. This is his life and his livelihood, and he was always motivated to do so. And once he got this boat back on track, he saw how bad it could get in the mid and late 90s, where people really did turn their backs on him. I suspect he's highly invested in making sure that doesn't happen again. And if that means giving the crowd what they want sometimes with some God is bad, metal is good kind of lyrics, that's what he's going to do. And it's keeping him and the band afloat. They're not terrible songs. Maybe, some of them can come across a bit cheesier or more corny than we'd like, but still overall solid and enjoyable. I put it at number 8. And once again, this could maybe eke up a notch or down a notch. These albums, since they've gotten back, have with Enemy of God forward, I've ranked them 7, 5, 6, 9, and 8. So we're very much kind of right here in the middle of the discography in terms of the ranking numbers for me. See, now Marty, you weren't so hot on this album when it came out, as I recall. So I'm interested to hear what you're thinking of it here in 2024.
This is one of those albums, and one of those instances where the vinyl community, the metal community, our brothers in doing content for metal, got me all excited about this record. Everybody's showing and saying how great it was, and oh wow, great. And so I went and bought it, and it's okay. it's kind of more of the same of Gods of Violence, but if I remember right, this one feels a lot longer. Maybe it's just me. Let me look.
It's not particularly long. I think it's 42-ish minutes. Maybe.
No, 42. It's right 46. It's 46 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really not a bad album. It's still them doing what they're doing in the 2020s, and the songs just really did not. I like some of the songs on here. There's 11 tracks, which is about normal for a Kreator record. I just wasn't overly enamored with the songs. Maybe I need to spin it some more. I've given this probably a good 4 or 5 spins since I bought it. But I still have not been able to get over my initial impression that I just was kind of underwhelmed by it in spite of it. I do like the Elleran Cantor artwork a bit. It's so much better than the few that lead. Well, Phantom Antichrist is pretty cool, but yeah, I don't know. This is just Kreator with the cruise control on. It's fine. They're more melodic. They're writing stuff for the big crowds to yell them to get in a circle pit and sing along with them, which is what you got to do over in Europe. You just kind of do.
Yeah.
It's kind of a thing. And well, I think Devin said if their next album is even more melodic, he's done. Well, it might be. It might be, depending on. I think this album was pretty well received, so he might be done. But that's it. And that was my number 13, if I didn't say that already. It ranked a little bit lower. Good, but not, I think they did better with Enemy of God and Violent Revolution. That whole stretch in through there, I think, was pretty solid compared to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's it.
That
Kreator.
I just want to add one thing. I thought about that today in the car. In the car, I was spinning a Dark Funeral record, and on Secrets of the Black Art, every second word is Satan.
Yeah, it's annoying. Drink every time you're fucking hammered. 2 songs in.
Yeah. And Kreator does a little bit of that, and it just doesn't fit that band. A song like, for example, Material World Paranoia, it has a meaning, and that's even over 30 years ago. But their modern context they have, it's just pleasing the crowds, and I don't know. There's something wrong with me with that. If I want to listen to a satanic record, I listen to Dark Funeral. Period.
Yeah. Yep. Or a whole bunch of other bands that do it.
Yeah.
No, totally get it. But at this point in their career, you have to face it. Kreator's a brand. It isn't always just a band. It's a brand. Their bread and butter is putting people in seats, selling tickets, selling merch. So I understand a middle-aged guy that has struggled. He struggled through the 90s. Kreator struggled through the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of bands did. But now seeing all those butts in seats and people excited to see Kreator again, I'm sure that's quite infectious and contagious, and he wants to keep doing it. And I think these last 2 albums are a response to that. He's leaning into it. He's giving them a little bit more melody. He's giving them something they can shout back at him in a concert. And that just, people get a little buzzed up and sing along with the band. They go home thinking, what a great show. Kreator's awesome. Whereas back in the day it was freaks in leather headbanging and crowd surfing on each other and ripping each other apart in a pit. But now it's getting the hot chicks to the front of the stage. You got the constant stream of bodies over the top. Positive reinforcement, exactly. We had negative reinforcement in the 90s, and now we have positive reinforcement. So,
but the hot chicks at German metal festivals, if you look at them closely, they are also middle-aged.
Well, that's the way it goes.
Right. So what you're saying, Marty, is you don't really expect Mila to try Indorama Part 2 follow-up
that'll never happen
anytime soon.
No, he's done. That's done. I think we're Kreator cruise control until he decides to be done, or he starts getting the feedback that this isn't good enough anymore. But like I said, the VC all seemed very happy with their new Kreator purchase when it came out, and yeah.
What about a renewal 2.0? With the
vocals, the vocals would have to be different.
really, really bad production. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think that Mantis retired from the business, so they'd have to get a whole new mascot, and it just wouldn't work.
Right.
They'd have like a giant grasshopper, and it's just not going to come across right.
They couldn't do that.
yeah,
it would be
but
just as bad, Devin. It'd be just as bad.
but to be honest, when a new Kreator album comes out, I'll probably buy it.
I probably will too. Hey, Donut, I haven't seen you on the show before. It's great to see you in the chat. Absolutely, man. Awesome. Glad to have you in the chat with everyone, for sure.
Yeah, Donut's been chiming in all night right from the beginning and had a lot of good comments. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the show. Well, glad you enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Yep. But I got to say, in closing for me, Kreator is a big band. It's a big band in my life. My early years, this band was my band. This and Overkill, early Overkill and Kreator and Merciful Fate were big bands for me. And because of that, I'm always going to give them a shot. Always going to give them the time of day. And I'm glad that they're starting to have been getting the success that they deserve. You know, Millie's put in the years, he's put in the miles, the blood, sweat, and tears. And whether I love everything he does, that's a lot to ask of a band. He can't make everybody happy all the time. What are your guys' closing thoughts on Kreator? Jurgen?
I'm gonna collect that shit, I think, until the day I die. I made a rant on my latest video, but that is where this is stuff you don't get in the record shops.
No, I haven't even heard of any of those. Those are awesome.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool cover art. Yeah.
That one. I think I'm not gonna step down. I have a question for you two. Will there be a chance, not this year, maybe starting next year, to do the two other bands? So we did the Destruction ranking. Now we did the Kreator ranking. Maybe in the near or far future, a Sodom and a Tank Up ranking.
People were already asking about those in the chat.
Down. So I'm down. I'm also down to do Rage. I know that's going to be a monster, but man, it's worth it.
That's going to be like a 3-part series.
The thing that shocks me about Rage is, my kid has been getting albums of theirs that I don't have. He's been getting some of the newer, the era, and I've been listening to them in the car. They're good. They're like, if I had not heard any other Rage and put this on, I'd be like, this rules. PV is just a great songwriter. He's got an ear for it. There's just a lot of it. A lot to process. That'll be a big one.
Yeah. But yeah, Sodom and Tanker definitely on the horizon for sure.
So 100%. Whenever you want to cover a German band, I think probably my English is not the best, but I have a couple of stories to tell.
Better than mine.
I was following these bands since the 80s, and I read a lot of magazines, and especially the bands from that area of our country. They are closely tied to the magazines, so I read a lot of in-depth interviews. So maybe I can come up with something. I know stuff about.
No, I would love to. That would be great.
Yeah, folks love the level of detail in history that you bring to these topics, Jurgen. Folks have been saying it in the chat that you absolutely are awesome at it. You bring a whole big dimension to it that Marty and I can't.
So at the beginning of the show, I was aware that you didn't really know what to do next week. I think we're gonna do a Poison ranking.
How many albums do they have?
None.
I think I was like one, maybe.
No.
not even one.
Not even one.
Alan, do you have any closing thoughts on Kreator before we put a cap in this?
Yeah, I'll just say that, yeah, it's been fun getting to finally dig through the rest of their discography. Found a lot of records I liked on first impression. There's several of these that, when I come across them, I'll be picking them up. I won't end up with a pile as deep as Jurgen's, of course, but yeah, several of these, with like Enemy of God, Hordes of Chaos. There are several of these I'll be perfectly happy to add to my shelf. It'll be interesting too to see kind of long term where they end up falling among the German bands for me. Historically, I've known more of the Destruction albums for a bit longer than the other bands, so they've always kind of been my default answer to this. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the Kreator discography. They went through that rough patch in the '90s, like pretty much every other band did. So I'm not going to hold that against them too much. I've really enjoyed a lot of the more recent albums, even though they may have ranked more like 6, 7, 8, 9. They're still perfectly enjoyable albums. They don't. Also, the fact that they were changing a little bit through those albums, at least, it doesn't feel like they made exactly the same album twice in a row. It's like, okay, the next one's a little more melodic. Then maybe they backed off that just a hair. There's little variations in there. There seems like they're always kind of tweaking the knobs, is a phrase I've used a few times with the later catalog, and that has kept those albums kind of interesting. So yeah, it's been great checking them out, and yeah, as I stumble across them, I'll be adding them to the collection. But yeah, as Jurgen said, we don't have a show topic lined up just yet for next Friday night, but we'll work on that. We have another big discography coming in a couple of weeks, so Marty and I still have a large homework assignment that we're working on.
Have not even started.
Well, you have to take another 16-hour road trip because
I watched a concert the other day that was quite enlightening. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
but,
awesome.
Marty, any other show notes that you wanted to remind folks of?
There's going to be some review. I've got like 4 reviews sitting in my inbox to edit, so there's stuff coming. And Alan's done a couple, Ben's done a review, and also Mike Seatown just submitted a review, so that's good. Hope to get Jurgen back doing reviews. I'm all ready for him to jump back into the fray too when he's ready. But and Wednesday the album club is talking about an Agents of Oblivion. Is that right?
No, Altar of Oblivion.
Altars of Oblivion.
Yeah, Dutch epic doom metal.
Yeah, I don't remember which album. I just kind of skimmed to the end.
Of Anguish.
Okay.
Their debut album. I got you back.
Tip fam, there's no new merch yet. We need to do some new shirts. And honestly, if you've bought a shirt, any order from me with a shirt, my t-shirt dryer died this week. Like dead. I'm ordering parts. It's going to cost a bunch of money to get fixed, of course. So there is a delay if any order from Bind Rune or Heavy Metallurgy. I know there's somebody that ordered a couple Heavy Metallurgy shirts that I was about to print. Then my dryer died. So what a pain. So yeah, new design soon. We need to get that sorted. It's been a while. Shirts do pretty good for us. So no V-neck polo. Sorry, Rick. Maybe next time. But anyway, this has been a great.
You gotta get the midriff cutoff ones like Milla had there in the early pictures.
I've been thinking about some Heavy Metallurgy thongs. That'd be pretty cool.
No.
Yep. But this has been a great night hanging with 2 of my favorite people in the world here tonight, with Jurgen and Alan, of course, and all you fine people are some of my favorite people in the world too. So thank you so much for joining us. What are you saying here, Rory? I just seen a thing from you. Where'd it go? Okay. Right on. Well, it's festival metal now. Yep.
Some folks are not into the newer stuff, and yeah, I get why. I can see that.
Right on. But anybody have anything to add?
Nope. It's time to wrap it up. But it's been a ton of fun. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. And Jurgen, as always, stay on the line, and we'll chat for a bit here once we're off the air.
And if you're not familiar with Jurgen's 6 beers, 9 wives, go to the link in the description. Great channel. And of course, Alan does Let's Talk Metal every Tuesday.
6 beers. I only got through 3 of them.
Right on. You were too busy. Anyway, everybody, cheers. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.